Chapter 13:16. The cruel law of the immortal world was the survival of the fittest. Tan Xiu had seen too many killings and battles, so he wasn't surprised. After retracting his gaze, he waved to a middle-aged man guarding the cloud-devouring beast on the roadside. After paying 10 immortal stones, he boarded the cloud-devouring beast's back and rushed toward the city gate. He didn't deliberately speed up and took more than half a day to leave Renault City. What surprised him was that the number of immortal soldiers outside Renault City's gate was more than 1,000. All of them were fully armed and looked as though they were facing a formidable enemy. Tan Xiu's expression shifted. He carefully listened to the discussions around him and immediately understood the cause of the matter. Old Fiend Izun has gone crazy. In just a few days he slaughtered tens of thousands of people and killed more than half of the people in Clearwater Stockade near Renault City. Even the profound immortal powerhouse of Clearwater Stockade was killed by him. Now he's coming to Renault City again. I'm afraid many people will die in Renault City if no powerhouse takes action. His only son was killed because he was too protective and connived at his son's misdeeds. Over the past few decades, how many people had his son and his followers harmed? How many wronged souls have they created? What about old Fiend Izun? Relying on his tyrannical cultivation, he sent people to help his only son solve the trouble he caused. He didn't blame his only son at all. Now that he was killed by someone else, he totally deserved it. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough. Otherwise, I would have killed old Fiend Izun's only son. Now that such a scourge has finally been eliminated, the area within hundreds of thousands of miles can finally be peaceful for a long time. Our Renault City is guarded by perfected golden immortals. Even if old Fiend Izun is tyrannical, his cultivation is only at the golden immortal stage. Once he dares to come to Renault City and start a massacre, the perfected golden immortal guarding the city will naturally take action to deal with him. It would be a great thing if both father and son died. I heard that Venerable East Wu and old Fiend Izun have some friendship. I wonder if Venerable East Wu will deal with old Fiend Izun now that he came to Renault City to kill him. By the way, I heard that the 4 powerhouses who killed old Fiend Izun are being chased by the Immortal Army. If my guess is correct, they should be handed over to old Fiend Izun to calm his anger, right? Let's not leave yet. Let's observe the situation nearby. With so many immortal soldiers here, even if old Fiend Izun's anger is monstrous, I'm afraid he won't dare to start a massacre at the city gate. Yes, let's wait and see. After Tan Xiu understood the situation, he remembered that when he walked out of the Ascending Cauldron Pavilion, he saw the 4 immortals being chased by immortal soldiers. He immediately sighed in his heart. He faintly felt that Venerable East Wu, the perfected golden immortal who guarded the city, wouldn't easily kill old Fiend Izun. It was very likely that he wanted to capture the 4 people who killed old Fiend Izun and hand them over to old Fiend Izun to quell his anger. Suddenly, a ray of blood-red light appeared tens of thousands of miles away, and a powerful aura swept over. As more than a dozen corpses fell to the ground beside the newcomer, over 1,000 immortal soldiers immediately stepped into the void and charged into the air in a battle formation. They looked at the white-robed old man who was dyed red with blood, as if they were facing a great enemy. Get lost. I know the people who killed my son have fled into Renault City. If you dare to stop me, don't blame me for stepping over your corpses and stepping into Renault City's gate. Old Fiend Izun's killing intent was so intense that it could almost condense into a substantial substance. The cultivators entering and exiting the city gate just felt the surging murderous aura and fled in fright. In just a short quarter of an hour, except for a dozen profound immortals and golden immortals with decent strength outside the city gate, everyone else had fled into the city. The dozen powerhouses were also scattered on both sides of the city gate, quietly watching the changing situation in front of them. Izun, our Lord Guardian of the city, has already sent people to arrest the 4 villains who killed your only son. Furthermore, Lord Guardian of the city said that you don't need to step into Renault City. He'll naturally send people to catch those 4 villains and hand them over to you. If you dare to step into Renault City, you'll become an enemy of our Immortal Lyceum. Lord Guardian of the city won't show any mercy even if you have some friendship with him, said the stalwart general, who commanded the immortal soldiers while holding an immortal spear. Old Fiend Izun unleashed his immortal sword and furiously roared. Venerable East Wu is indeed very strong, but why would I be afraid of him? Get the fuck away. Else I'll kill you all even if you bring out Venerable East Wu. The expression of the Golden Immortal Army commander in the lead changed slightly. He was just an early-stage Golden Immortal, and the gap between him and the late-stage Golden Thread Old Fiend Izun was huge. Even if he commanded 1,000 immortal soldiers, he would most likely be killed by Old Fiend Izun if they really fought. Therefore, he quickly took out a message token and reported the situation at the city gate to Venerable East Wu. Renault City, City Lord Mansion. Venerable East Wu sat cross-legged on a futon beside a blooming pond, watching the red arowanas swimming in the pond with a faintly discernible aura lingering around him. He was an early-stage perfected Golden Immortal, but it had been 2,400 years since he broke through to this stage, yet he still couldn't cross this hurdle. Recently, he once followed Apotheosis Bella to the Heavenly Mountain Immortal Domain to rescue someone, and then received her order to start operating the Immortal Lyceum and eliminate some unstable factors. Such an unprecedented situation made him faintly realize that something big was about to happen. In the past, as a lofty and aloof perfected Golden Immortal, he thought that as long as he didn't take the initiative to provoke those supremacy stage powerhouses and had Apotheosis Bella's protection, he could rest easy and slowly cultivate and break through. However, the battle in the Heavenly Mountain, he could only watch helplessly as Tang Xiu instantly killed a perfected Golden Immortal powerhouse. It finally made him realize that his strength was still too weak. If a war were to break out in the future and affect the entire Immortal Lyceum, it would be difficult for him to protect himself given his current strength. It was precisely because of this that a sense of urgency arose spontaneously. Whoosh! A beam of light shot toward him. Frowning, he reached out and caught the summoning talisman. After reading its contents, his face flickered, and his eyes filled with anger. In the next moment, his figure disappeared on the spot. In almost the blink of an eye, he appeared outside the city. Izun, you've gone too far. Venerable East Wu indifferently glanced at Old Fiend Izun, and said with an indifferent tone. Old Fiend Izun snorted coldly. Brother Wudong, I Izun, respect your character and don't want to violate the rules here. However, he had to avenge his son's death. Let me personally enter the city and capture those 4 damned bastards. After that, I will leave immediately. Venerable East Wu shook his head and said, the rules have been set and no one can break them. I told someone to tell you that I will help you catch the 4 murderers, and then hand them over to you. This is already my bottom line. I don't trust your people, Venerable East Wu, said Old Fiend Izun coldly. Since you insist on stopping me, then don't blame me for not giving you face. I've long wanted to experience the means of a perfected Golden Immortal like you, and now the opportunity has finally come. What? Venerable East Wu never dreamed that Old Fiend Izun would say such words. Judging from his appearance, this old fiend wanted to fight him? Was he insane? Could it be that he could defeat a perfected Golden Immortal by relying on his Golden Immortal stage? Venerable East Wu shot a deep look at Old Fiend Izun and indifferently said, since you want to fight me, then I'll fulfill your wish. But don't expect me to show mercy to you. A disdainful look flashed in Old Fiend Izun's eyes. His aura suddenly surged and increased tenfold in nearly a flash. Further, his skin began to dry and crack as scales drilled out of his skin. Soon, his whole body was covered with a layer of scales. Come on. Show me what you got. Disbelief was written all over East Wu's face as he exclaimed. You're not a pure immortal? You're a perfected Golden Immortal? That's right. Old Fiend Izun grinned and instantly unleashed his innate natal immortal sword. As he cast a sword art, layers of sword images instantly blotted out the sky and shot toward Venerable East Wu. Venerable East Wu put away his shock and vigilantly released his innate natal immortal weapon. He didn't know why Old Fiend Izun hid his identity, let alone why he hid his cultivation. He had sincerely befriended this old fiend before, but he didn't expect that this old fiend didn't trust him at all. Hence, he didn't need to show any mercy. Red Lotus Karmic Flame Sword. Venerable East Wu didn't act, but once he did, he unleashed his most powerful move with a thunderous momentum. At the same time, he cast a technique and karmic flame suddenly appeared out of thin air, pressing down on Old Fiend Izun with the momentum of a prairie fire. Old Fiend Izun disdainfully smiled. His ferocious face twisted as his body rushed toward Venerable East Wu. He was like a killer move amidst layers of sword techniques, as he instantly appeared amidst the red lotus karmic flame that blotted the sky. At least hundreds of scales on his body silently shot out and blended into the innate natal immortal sword light, colliding with Venerable East Wu's attack. So strong! Venerable East Wu let out a muffled groan. He felt that his chest was hit by a solid bombardment, and his body was immediately sent flying back hundreds of meters. During this process, he was horrified to find that Old Fiend Izun's speed was much faster than his. One of the sword images was like a long whip that fiercely lashed his chest. Puff blood splashed out. When Venerable East Wu was injured, his innate natal immortal weapon also bombarded the Old Fiend's waist and sent him flying. However, the scales on Old Fiend Izun's body were extremely hard, and had a very terrifying defensive power. Even though the Old Fiend's waist was hit, it only caused a minor injury. Who the hell are you? Old Fiend Izun shouldn't be your real identity. Venerable East Wu angrily roared. Old Fiend Izun sneered. If you want to know my real identity, then show me the strength to make me dread you. Else you can only be a muddled ghost today. Chapter 13-17. Venerable East Wu was furious. Although he realized that his current strength was not strong enough, being despised by Old Fiend Izun, whom he once regarded as a weakling, filled his heart with shame and made his killing intent sore. Almost in the blink of an eye, he took out a black pill and threw it into his mouth. I'd like to see how strong the capital behind your arrogance is. His innate natal immortal sword instantly burst out with a dazzling light. Countless sword shadows combined into one, and a 10,000-meter-long saber beam fiercely slashed toward Old Fiend Izun. At the same time, his figure split into three. Two of them appeared next to Old Fiend Izun, and also launched a crazy attack. Tri-line clone technique? Old Fiend Izun suddenly became vigilant. He was very familiar with Venerable East Wu and naturally knew that this was his strongest attack. Therefore, as a fingernail-sized black skull flew out of his sleeve, in the blink of an eye, its size increased by 1,000 times. Black fierce beasts the size of cheetahs drilled out of the ears, noses, and throats of the skull that had expanded to the size of a giant skull, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they pounced toward Venerable East Wu. His innate natal immortal sword turned into thousands of sword beams, and was grabbed by the black fierce beasts. In the blink of an eye, they arranged a sinister sword array in midair, and clashed with the three sword beams. It leaked. Venerable East Wu's complexion drastically changed. He keenly sensed that the three black fierce beasts didn't form a sword array, but appeared in front of him in a strange rout. Even if he desperately tried to resist, one of the black fierce beasts still chopped off his left arm with its immortal sword, and tore his chest with its sharp claws. Buzz! Venerable East Wu suddenly felt dizzy. Suddenly, the black fierce beast seized this moment and bombarded Venerable East Wu's chest with its head. Puff! In a flash, Venerable Wu's body flew backward and heavily hit the wall of the city wall. As a transparent light shield rose from the wall, he didn't cause any damage to the wall, but the huge impact made his injury worse. However, at this moment, although Old Fiend Izun's injury was lighter than Venerable East Wu's, the violent attack of the tri-line clone technique still made him spurt out a mouthful of blood. Who the hell are you? Venerable East Wu leaned against the city wall and roared after stabilizing his body. Old Fiend Izun raised his hand to wipe the blood on the corner of his mouth and sneered. You do have some ability to injure me. Fine, I'll let you die knowing. My true body, the giant lizard fiend Venerable, has been hiding in the Immortal Lyceum for thousands of years in order to avoid being hunted down by powerful enemies. If my only son hadn't been killed, my identity wouldn't have been exposed. Venerable East Wu, it's worth celebrating that you died in my hands. Venerable East Wu exclaimed in disbelief. It's you? So it's you, the devil? Thousands of years ago, you provoked a supremacy stage powerhouse and was chased miserably. I didn't expect you to transform into Old Fiend Izun and hide in the Immortal Lyceum. No wonder you've been hiding your identity and cultivation all these years. However, if you want to kill me, you will have to pay a painful price. Swish swish. Two figures flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Old Fiend Izun from the direction of the city wall. Two high-grade Magus artifacts bombarded him, while another lightning-fast figure appeared in front of Old Fiend Izun's flying body, like a maggot attached to a bone. As the terrifying fists bombarded his body, the huge impact caused Old Fiend Izun to scream. What a hard body! Tanshio transmitted his voice to Star Tears and Sable Fiend Scorpio. While Old Fiend Izun was being beaten back, his punches became fiercer. At the same time, he cast the Devour Divine ability to prevent Old Fiend Izun's body from flying backward too fast. What's going on? Old Fiend Izun never dreamed that powerhouses would appear just as he was about to confidently kill Venerable East Wu. Moreover, there were at least 3 perfected golden immortals among them. The sudden attack of those two had already scared him out of his wits, but the more violent and powerful enemy behind him made him unable to stabilize his body. Being bombarded again and again, the power simply exceeded his endurance, causing him to scream miserably. Even the scales on his body were smashed to pieces. Go to hell! Tanshio unleashed his divine sword and directly pierced Old Fiend Izun's body at a very close distance. The violent primal chaos force also destroyed the Old Fiend's internal organs. At the same time, he also cast the fusion divine ability and forcibly sucked out Old Fiend Izun's immortal soul. He then began to dissolve the Old Fiend's immortal soul in a domineering manner, turning it into pure energy that integrated into his body to enhance his cultivation. Break for me! Tanshio circulated the violent primal chaos force to his fist, and then fiercely punched at Old Fiend Izun's body, whose vitality was fading away. Almost using all his strength, the blow directly penetrated Old Fiend Izun's body, and sent him flying tens of thousands of meters away, before exploding in midair. The energy is very pure. Tanshio recalled the time when he killed another supremacy in the Heavenly Mountain and devoured and integrated his immortal soul's power, which made his strength advance by leaps and bounds. This time, he was very grateful that the energy refined from Old Fiend Izun's immortal soul was much purer and more massive. In the past, Tanshio might not have understood the heaven-defying nature of the Devour and Fusion divine abilities, but he would be a fool if he still didn't understand it now. Devour the opponent's immortal soul, smelt it, and fuse it into his own power. He had now finally figured out some of the mysteries of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis was not only a cultivation technique to enhance the strength of his physique, but also a cultivation technique that allowed him to kill powerful enemies and absorb their most primordial energy. Last time, he fused with the immortal soul's energy of a perfected golden immortal, which gave him 100 years' worth of cultivation gains. This time, he estimated that he could increase his cultivation gains by at least 200 years. Slaughter. Devour. Fuse. Tanshio took a deep breath. After thoroughly realizing the heaven-defying nature of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, his eyes flickered and he had greater confidence in rapidly improving his cultivation. He originally thought that revenge would be a distant date, but now it seemed that it wasn't that far away. Star Tears and Sable Fiend Scorpio were moved when they saw how Tanshio tyrannized Old Fiend Izun and easily killed him. They had seen Tanshio kill a perfected golden immortal before, but at that time the enemy's attention wasn't on Tanshio at all. Hence, the enemy let his guard down and got instantly killed by Tanshio. Luck played a big part in it. But this time, although Tanshio was opportunistic at first and used the two's attacks as an entry point, his violent power and final attack made the two finally realize that Tanshio's strength was comparable to that of a perfected golden immortal. Not far away from them, Venerable East Wu was tongue-tied as he looked at the 3 people who appeared. But when his eyes fell on Tanshio, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief inwardly. Others might not know the identities of Tanshio, Star Tears, and Sable Fiend Scorpio, but he knew something about them. After all, the scene of them joining hands to kill the enemy in the Heavenly Mountain was still vivid in his mind. He was well aware of one thing. If it weren't for these 3 people's sudden attack, the Old Fiend would have been severely injured, and he would have been ruthlessly killed by the Old Fiend. It could be said that these 3 people in front of him were his saviors. Thank you for saving my life, Heavenly Emperor. Venerable East Wu came before Tanshio and the others and cupped his fists respectfully. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and waved his hand. It's just a coincidence that we met each other. It's nothing much. Apotheosis Bella and I are on the same side. Since you're his subordinate, I'd like to say a few words, but I hope Venerable Eastwu won't blame me. Please speak, Heavenly Emperor, said Venerable Eastwu hurriedly. You're the city lord of Renault City, so you must protect all your people, said Tan Xiu. Even if you have some friendship with that old fiend Izun, you shouldn't have sent people to capture the 4 people who killed his only son. Renault City has its own rules. As long as you're not an enemy of the Immortal Lyceum and are in the Immortal Lyceum city, then you're the Immortal Lyceum's people. Some things are better not to cross the line. Even if you're the one who made the rules, don't easily violate the bottom line. Venerable Eastwu slightly furrowed his brows and asked, I understand what you mean, Heavenly Emperor. But isn't it a bit too much? After all, those 4 are weak. Tan Xiu waved his hand again and interrupted him. It's a sense of security. That's why the people in the Immortal Lyceum's immortal domain, be it ordinary people or cultivators, don't distinguish between their strength and weakness, but distinguish between friend and foe. Only when you provide them with a sense of security can they truly rely on you and support you. Besides, those 4 may be weaklings in your eyes, but once they continue to break through in the future and truly grow up, they will become the power of the Immortal Lyceum. Having said that, Tan Xiu took a deep breath and his eyes swept over the thousands of immortal soldiers. Then he said again, you must unite as one when dealing with your own people. Even an ordinary person may be able to influence the outcome of a battle at some special moment. I once saw 2 perfected golden immortals fighting, but at the end of the battle, both of them suffered heavy injuries and no longer had the ability to attack. But at this moment, a Foundation Establishment cultivator passed by. I don't need to tell you the ending, do I? Venerable Eastwu was as though struck by lightning. His entire being was immersed in what Tan Xiu said. Unite. Unite as one? A sense of belonging? These seemingly ordinary words caused his state of mind to undergo an earth-shattering change. He even slowly raised his head and looked at the vast void in the universe's firmament. Many things in the world are made up of fewer things. A grain of sand is insignificant, but hundreds of millions of grains of sand can form a vast mountain. A drop of water is insignificant, but hundreds of millions of water droplets can form a vast ocean. A single person is singular in number, but hundreds of millions of people can form a terrifying organization. Gathering a few into many, they can shake the sun and moon. I'll update it at the 3rd chapter today. Quiet Night has been working hard on writing. I'll update another chapter at around 9 a.m. Brothers and sisters, please give me your monthly and recommendation votes. Chapter 13:18. A special aura converged above Venerable Eastwu's head. In just a quarter of an hour, a transparent energy poured from the sky into Venerable Eastwu's head and integrated into his body. Under the infusion of this energy, the aura emanating from Venerable Eastwu's body kept getting stronger. For 7 days, his aura had become several times stronger than before. Huff! Venerable Eastwu spurted out a mouthful of turbid air. The moment he opened his eyes, he looked at Tan Xiu with deep gratitude. He cupped his fists and bowed, thanking him. Thank you for your guidance, Heavenly Emperor. This is your good fortune, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Actually, I didn't expect that you would be able to break through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage after listening to my words. I've been stuck at the early stage perfected golden immortal stage for 2,400 years, sighed Venerable Eastwu. No matter how much I accumulate and cultivate, I've never been able to take the next step. I know that it's because my comprehension of the heavenly Tao is insufficient. But I never thought that I would be enlightened after listening to your words, Heavenly Emperor. The fog in my heart was lifted and I directly broke through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage. Now that you've broken through, a comfortable life no longer belongs to you. Tan Xiu smiled. You need to familiarize yourself with the strength of a mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage. And you also need to find an opponent who can match you to fight. Come with me. I'll give you an opponent and a battlefield. This, Venerable Eastwu hesitated. Heavenly Emperor, my duty is to protect Renault City. I won't be able to explain it to Apotheosis Bella if I leave with you. The Immortal Lyceum's immortal domain will soon change. You're just leaving a step ahead. Tanshio smiled. Don't worry. I'll send a perfected golden immortal powerhouse to take over the task of guarding this place for you. Come with me to see Apotheosis Bella. She'll let you leave with me. Venerable Eastwu looked confused. He really couldn't figure out the relationship between this great Tang Heavenly Emperor and Apotheosis Bella. It was reasonable to say that he had never seen this great Tang Heavenly Emperor in front of him apart from the time they met in the Heavenly Mountain, nor had he heard about him from Apotheosis Bella. This great Tang Heavenly Emperor seemed to have appeared out of thin air, but Apotheosis Bella trusted him very much. She even did something crazy like joining hands to kill a supremacy stage powerhouse. I'll go with you to see Apotheosis Bella. Venerable Eastwu felt that it was necessary for him to learn the identity of this great Tang Heavenly Emperor from Apotheosis Bella, if she really agreed to let him leave with him. Wait. Venerable Eastwu's complexion slightly changed all of a sudden. He suddenly realized something. This great Tang Heavenly Emperor just said that the Immortal Lyceum's immortal domain would change soon, and he would send perfected golden immortals to take over the task of guarding Renault City. What did that mean? Renault City was a major city in the Immortal Lyceum domain, and had always been under the control of Apotheosis Bella. Could it be that the great Tang Heavenly Emperor in front of him wanted to take over his place? Take Apotheosis Bella's territory as his own? If that was the case, would Apotheosis Bella just ignore it? Something's wrong. Who the hell is he? He previously led a large number of perfected golden immortals to the Heavenly Mountain to rescue the powerhouses of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. Could he be someone from the Rosefinch Holy Sect? Tanshio ignored Venerable Eastwu's wild imagination, and directly ordered Star Tears and Sablefiend Scorpio to return to the Heavenly Abode artifact. He then looked at Venerable Eastwu and said, I'll give you half an hour to arrange everything. We'll leave immediately after that. Come with me to see Apotheosis Bella. Understood. Venerable Eastwu replied and quickly took out a few message tokens. Then he respectfully said, I've already informed the commander of the immortal soldiers in the city with a message token. We can set off now. Let's go. Tanshio nodded. Half a month later, Tanshio and Venerable Eastwu came to the residence of Apotheosis Bella of the Immortal Lyceum. Since all the guards knew Venerable Eastwu, Tanshio was not stopped and directly entered the vortex portal, and appeared on the square outside the palace. Just as the Immortal General Station there was about to interrogate Tanshio's identity, his expression slightly shifted, and he immediately said with a respectful expression, Venerable Eastwu, Apotheosis Bella has ordered you to wait here for a while. She wants to see Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Venerable Eastwu stared blankly, and immediately shot a suspicious look at Tanshio. He then slightly nodded and said, Then I'll wait here. Please, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Tanshio slightly nodded. The moment he flew into the palace, he immediately realized that the palace's portal had closed directly. A fiery red figure then threw herself at him from the 9 dragons throne nearly in an instant. It was a familiar smell. Tanshio could only force a wry smile inwardly. He knew that Apotheosis Bella had always been enthusiastic, but he didn't expect that she would take the initiative to throw herself at him the moment they met again. However, Tanshio, who had secretly accepted her in his heart, neither dodged nor pushed her away. Instead, he gently hugged her delicate body and patted her delicate back. After a long time, Apotheosis Bella reluctantly released Tanshio and murmured, I really want to hug you forever until the end of time. Tanshio couldn't help laughing and said, If we really hug each other until the end of time, we'll both turn into fossils. Apotheosis Bella held Tanshio's hand, and pulled him to the 9 dragons throne with a happy smile on her face. Then she softly said, I'll still feel happy even if I turn into a fossil. Although it's only been a short time since I left last time. It feels like a year to me. I've been praying that you can come earlier, so that I can see you sooner. Even if it's just a glance, it's still a happy thing for me. Tanshio gently hugged her shoulder and softly said, Just wait. Wait until we become stronger and get rid of all our enemies. I won't be bored even if you stay by my side every day. Apotheosis Bella nodded and said, I know that day won't be far away. Tan Xiao spread his left hand, and an interspatial ring appeared in his hand. Then he said, I heard from Apotheon Mu that you gave me all the immortal crystals and crystal essences of the Immortal Lyceum, causing the Immortal Lyceum to have a serious shortage of immortal crystals and crystal essences. I brought 20 million crystal essences this time to solve the urgent problem here. Won't it affect the Great Tang Empire if you take out so many crystal essences? Apotheosis Bella hurriedly asked. I don't need them for the time being. Tan Xiao raised his hand to interrupt her and said softly, We killed myriad Thunder Supreme, 6 perfected golden immortals, and dozens of golden immortals. We obtained 200 million immortal crystals and crystal essences from them. I placed all of them in the Great Tang Empire. As for these 20 million immortal crystals, I got them from selling the immortal treasures I got from them in the Eventide market. So the Great Tang Empire doesn't lack immortal crystals and crystal essences at the moment. In addition, I plan to leave for a period of time. If I'm quick, it will be 3 years. If I'm slow, it will be 10 years. Where are you going? Asked Apotheosis Bella hurriedly. Tan Xiao smiled and said, The secret palace of the drunken Immortal Supreme in the Immortal Abode Immortal Domain is about to open, so I'm going to explore it. Although I don't care about the inheritance of the drunken Immortal Supreme, he was once the richest immortal in the immortal world. If I can get a lot of wealth from the secret palace, I can ensure the smooth development of the Great Tang Empire in the future. Apotheosis Bella replied without hesitation. I've also heard about the opening of the drunken Immortal Supreme secret art. At that time, there would probably be countless perfected golden immortals. In fact, there might even be Supreme Being level experts appearing. That's why I'm going with you. I've been waiting for you to come back and get your acceptance, so I can't lose you again. Who can recognize me with my current appearance? Tan Xiao forced a smile. Even if there are Supremes there, I'm afraid they won't kill me as long as I don't provoke them, no? Apotheosis Bella desperately shook her head and seriously said, I must go with you. I can't let you bear even the slightest danger. Your current strength has regressed too much. I'm not worried about the perfected golden immortals, but I still have to be on guard against the Supremes. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and said, It's not impossible for you to go with me, but you must promise me that you won't act without my permission. If I want to restore my former strength, I'll have to go through brutal battles. I'm afraid it will take a long time for me to return to my former realm if I have your protection. Apotheosis Bella thought for a while and said, I understand what you said, but I won't act as long as you don't encounter any Supremes outside the secret palace, all right? As for you entering the secret palace, I can't go with you. I heard that drunken Immortal Supreme's secret palace is a place where Supremes will be attacked once they enter. I'm afraid they might really fall inside. Tan Xiao nodded and said, If it's the secret palace left by other Supremes, I'm afraid many Supremes will turn a blind eye to that warning. However, drunken Immortal Supreme's former strength, even when compared to me at my strongest, is likely to be even stronger. Therefore, no sovereign dares to break into the secret palace unless they are courting death. Apotheosis Bella nodded and sighed. Yeah. The most important thing is that the secret palace created by drunken Immortal Supreme was set up before he ascended to the god's realm. Once he becomes a god, his strength will skyrocket. That kind of terrifying power is no longer something a supremacy stage immortal can compare with. Let's not talk about this first. If you want to go with me, you need to pay attention to a few things, said Tan Xiao. The first thing you need to do is to arrange for the perfected golden immortals under your command to join the Great Tang Empire. Also, carry out the merger plan I sent to you in secret. I'll arrange it right away. Apotheosis Bella was a swift and decisive person. She immediately summoned all the perfected golden immortals and arranged everything. Although the 6 perfected golden immortals under her command were full of doubts, they still agreed. The return to the immortal world would come to an end at the end of this month. But the story wouldn't end just like that. Silent Night will continue to bring happiness to everyone in the form of a special article, but the content of the article will be decided by the brothers and sisters. You can vote for today's article after following the WeChat account. Silent Night's WeChat account is JYJS00. Or you can directly search for Silent Night __. Chapter 1319. Apotheosis. Bella had arranged everything. Except for East Wu, the other 5 had already left. When Apotheosis Bella's suspicious eyes landed on Venerable East Wu, he forced a smile and cupped his fists to Tang Xiao. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, please explain it to me. East Wu has just broken through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage, so I'm going to take him to the immortal cave domain. Tan Xiao lightly smiled. You should understand that he has just broken through and needs to temper himself in battle. You actually broke through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage, East Wu. Apotheosis. Bella was surprised. If my memory serves me right, you've been stuck at the early stage perfected golden immortal stage for more than 2,400 years, no? You're right, said East Wu respectfully. If it wasn't for Great Tang Heavenly Emperor who saved my life in Renault City and gave me some pointers, let alone breaking through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage, I would have been dead by now. Apotheosis. Bella was shaken inwardly and asked in a deep voice, what exactly happened? The confusion in East Wu's heart deepened. He didn't expect that Apotheosis. Bella wasn't the slightest bit surprised about Great Tang Heavenly Emperor giving him pointers. After organizing his words, he recounted everything that happened before and finally said, it's also thanks to Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's pointers that my understanding of the Heavenly Tao Law has gone further, allowing me to break through to the mid-stage perfected golden immortal stage. Apotheosis. Bella let out a smile and nodded. It's really a blessing for you to get his guidance. Since he asked you to follow us to the immortal cave domain, you can enter the heavenly abode artifact he carries with him. You're going too? Asked East Wu in shock. Apotheosis. Bella nodded and smilingly said, that's right. I'm also going there. Venerable East Wu was even more curious about the relationship between Apotheosis. Bella and Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. If he remembered correctly, Apotheosis. Bella had always had eyes on the top of her head. She had always been indifferent to any man except for Star Cultivation Great Emperor. Could it be because Star Cultivation Great Emperor's soul had been destroyed, so Apotheosis. Bella decided to sever all the karma and start a new life? But that's not right. If Apotheosis. Bella had decided to cut off all karma with the past, she wouldn't have taken them to the Immortal Lyceum to save the people of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. The bewildered Venerable East Wu finally didn't ask about the confusion in his heart, and directly entered the heavenly abode artifact carried by Tan Xiao. There, he Star Tears and Sablefiend Scorpio quietly cultivated inside the artifact and consolidated their realms. 2 days later, Tan Xiao and Apotheosis. Bella left the Immortal Lyceum, but they didn't use the Immortal Lyceum spatial teleportation array. Instead, they directly flew out of the Immortal Lyceum's immortal domain. It took them half a year to pass through 2 immortal domains. After Apotheosis. Bella changed her appearance and aura, she followed Tan Xiao through the spatial teleportation array to the distant immortal cave immortal domain. 2.5 years later, Tan Xiao and Apotheosis. Bella stepped out of the teleportation array in Sacred Fire City of Immortal Cave immortal domain. Looking at the thousands of immortal soldiers around them brimming with murderous aura, and the fact that the commander of these immortal soldiers turned out to be a perfected golden immortal, the 2 of them calmly left. After a long time, Tan Xiao transmitted his voice to her. How long have we been in the immortal cave immortal domain? To think that we've already encountered so many powerhouses. It seems that there are no less than 10 perfected golden immortals among them, no? The inheritance secret art left by Drunken Immortal Supreme is indeed a huge temptation, replied Apotheosis. Bella via voice transmission. I'm afraid that 1/10 of the perfected golden immortals in the entire immortal world will come here, hoping to try their luck. And the number of golden immortals will probably be countless times more. Tan Xiao nodded and said, to be honest, there aren't many people I admire, but Drunken Immortal Supreme is definitely one of them. 80,000 years ago, the immortal world was full of powerhouses, yet he was able to sit firmly on the throne of the immortal world's #1 powerhouse. It's a pity that we weren't born in the same era, else I'd really like to see his elegant demeanor. I firmly believe that you'll be able to see Drunken Immortal Supreme with your own eyes one day. said Apotheosis Bella with a smile. If there's anyone in the entire immortal world who has the most hope to break through to the true god stage and ascend to the god's realm, it's you. Tanshio couldn't help laughing and said, "You're really confident in me, huh? But I'm also confident in myself. After all, I've crossed the divinity tribulation before, so I'll be more confident next time." 2 days later, the duo didn't hurry and instead leisurely flew slowly to the boundless mountain range where drunken Immortal Supreme's secret palace was located. The small city that used to be the closest to the boundless mountains was now packed with people. Countless palaces could be seen within a million miles of the small city. The forces of the world of immortals were too numerous to count. Apotheosis Bella had converged her aura and changed her appearance, so she looked like an ordinary person. She followed Tanshio and observed a lot of forces before landing on a remote riverside. "We need to buy a palace-type immortal artifact." Tanshio looked around and spoke with a forced smile. Since he had come here, he didn't want to be repeatedly observed by countless people. If he could buy a palace-type immortal artifact, he could block the spiritual sense of outsiders. "I just found some people from the refiner sect. Let's go find them. I'm sure we can buy a palace-type immortal artifact." Apotheosis Bella said with a smile. "Yeah, that's what I plan to do." Tanshio held Apotheosis Bella's hand and flew toward the direction of the refiner sect's palace. In just a quarter of an hour, they arrived outside the sect's palace gate. "Halt!" For golden immortals blocked Tanshio and Apotheosis Bella outside. "We're here to buy a palace-type immortal artifact," said Tanshio. "Your sect has a rule that immortal artifacts will be sold as long as there's a palace outside, right?" The 4 men nodded and said, "We naturally won't stop you since you're visiting our sect to do business. Please come in." After Tanshio and Apotheosis Bella stepped into the palace gate, they saw a beautiful ordinary female immortal greeting them with a warm smile. However, Tanshio's eyes only flashed from her, and then fell on 2 figures at the end of the corridor. Those figures were somewhat familiar to him. Tanshio wanted to release his spiritual sense to probe them, but he found that the palace had a suppressive effect on his spiritual sense. Just as he released his spiritual sense, it suffered a fierce attack. With no other choice, he could only retract his spiritual sense and watch the 2 familiar figures disappear into the palace's corridor. "What can I do for you 2 distinguished guests?" asked the female immortal with a smile. "We're going to buy some palace-type immortal artifacts and take us inside," said Tanshio. The female immortal hesitated for a moment, and then forced a smile. "2 distinguished guests, I'll be frank with you. Although our sect brought a lot of palace-type immortal artifacts this time, we're out of stock due to too many distinguished guests buying them. If you 2 can wait for half a year, you can wait for a new batch of palace-type immortal artifacts to be delivered." Tanshio shook his head and said, "We may not need palace-type immortal artifacts after half a year." "Then I can only apologize to you 2 distinguished guests," said the female immortal. Suddenly, Apotheosis Bella took out a golden token and shook it in front of the female immortal. Then, she lightly said, "Your sect has always liked to keep a backup plan. I think if you still have some palace-type immortal artifacts left, you should give us priority to sell one of them to us." This is... The female immortal's expression greatly changed when she saw the token. She immediately took out a message token and respectfully said, "2 distinguished guests, please wait for a moment. The wordless token is something that only the truly distinguished guests of my sect can have. There are less than 50 people in the entire immortal world who can have this token. Hence my qualification is too low. Some seniors of my sect will come to receive you 2 later." As expected, a few minutes later, a figure appeared in front of the duo. The newcomer was a white-haired old man with a stooped body and a somewhat hunchback. His bronze-colored skin was already full of wrinkles. Tanshio and Apotheosis Bella were very powerful, so they could naturally sense the old man's declining aura. This indicated that the old man's lifespan would not exceed 300 years at most. Wuxia. A complicated look flashed in Tanshio's eyes. He knew the old man in front of him, and even had a good friendship with him. Unfortunately, the old man had been seriously injured and his cultivation had stagnated at the late-stage perfected golden immortal stage. It was impossible for him to step into the supremacy stage for the rest of his life. Once upon a time, Tanxiu also had a wordless token, which was given to him by the sect master's senior brother of this old man. Unfortunately, he was raided and his interspatial ring was robbed, so the wordless token no longer belonged to him. You two fellow immortals look unfamiliar. May I know which disciple of my sect got it? Old man Wuxia asked with a sigh after confirming the wordless token. Wuxia, answered Apotheosis Bella. Old man Witless was slightly stunned, then he said in surprise. Junior brother has not left our crafting sect for more than 500 years. Even in the past 3,000 years, he has only left our crafting sect twice. Yet, you actually got the wordless token from him. That's really strange. I got it 500 years ago, said Apotheosis Bella lightly. A glint flashed in old man Wuxia's eyes. He had read the ancient records of the wordless token, so he naturally knew who junior brother Wuxia gave the token to. After pondering for a moment, he asked with a strange look in his eyes, I presume fellow immortal knows Apotheosis Bella? Old man Wuxia loves to gossip. It seems that the rumors in the immortal world are true, said Apotheosis Bella calmly. Ugh! Old man Wuxia's breathing stagnated and he immediately let out a hollow laugh. This old man was rude. You came to my sect with the wordless token to buy an immortal artifact, so you naturally have the priority. You can even choose any 3 immortal artifacts from us without paying a penny. If you choose more than 3, we'll take the money for the 4th immortal artifact. Apotheosis Bella nodded and said, Venerable Wuxia told me about the rules, so I understand. We came here this time because we need a palace-type immortal artifact. Chapter 1320. Old man Witless raised his hand and took out a palace-type immortal artifact and smilingly said, The weapons refined by my sect were the most popular in the past, but I didn't expect that the demand for palace-type weapons would be in short supply here. This is an 8th-grade immortal artifact called the Myriad Golden Sail. It can be used as a palace for daily living, and can also be used for flying. Apotheosis Bella received it and nodded. Thank you. Please don't be so polite, fellow immortal. Old man Witless smiled. This is the rule of my sect, and it's something I should do. It's a pity that junior brother Colorless didn't come this time, else he would have been pleasantly surprised. Apotheosis Bella realized that this old man had probably guessed her true identity, so she didn't want to stay here for long. She looked at Tanxiu and asked, Are we leaving now? Or, let's continue strolling around since we're already here, said Tanxiu. Maybe we'll encounter an unexpected surprise. All right. Apotheosis Bella nodded. Do you still need my company? Asked old man Witless with a smile. No need for the time being, said Tanxiu. We'll naturally send someone to find you if we need you. Also, please convey my regards to fellow immortal Nameless. Senior brother Nameless? Old man Witless' eyes lit up as he watched the backs of Tanxiu and Apotheosis Bella entering the corridor. He secretly tried to figure out their true identities. He had vaguely guessed Apotheosis Bella's identity, but what was the origin of that young man? He actually wanted him to convey his regards to senior brother Nameless? It must be noted that those who had a relationship with senior brother Nameless in the entire immortal world were all almighty immortals. Most of them were at least late-stage perfected golden immortals or supremes. In the corridor, Apotheosis Bella sent a voice transmission to Tanxiu. 500 years ago, I met old man Colorless in the periphery of the Rosefinch Holy Sect when I was fighting with Zither Demon Juyao's subordinates. I don't know why he changed his appearance to help the people of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, but he and I fought side by side and stayed there for decades. In the end, he was heavily injured and had no choice but to retreat. Tanxiu sighed. I have a deep relationship with the crafting sect, but I didn't expect them to help the Rosefinch Holy Sect in such a critical moment. I still need to repay this favor in the future. Suddenly, he thought of the wise old man's physical condition, and immediately had an idea. The wise old man had once been heavily injured, and it was impossible for him to break through to the Supreme Being realm. However, he had an extreme method that could change the wise old man's situation. A peach in return for a plum. Since the crafting school had done the Rosefinch Holy Sect a favor, then they would have to repay it to the wise old man. The interior of this palace was very spacious. Tan Xiao and Apotheosis Bella wandered around inside for nearly a day, yet they only saw 1/3 of the immortal treasures in the area. Can you make it cheaper? Recently we are very tight on money. Being able to take out 4 million immortal crystals is already our limit. We really don't have any more. Just as Tan Xiao and Apotheosis Bella stepped into a side hall, they heard a bitter voice coming from inside. When the two looked over, they saw 2 men in their 30s talking to the people of the crafting sect. I'm sorry, but the lowest price for this Sky Shaker axe is 2 million immortal crystals. If we sell it for 4 million immortal crystals, we won't even be able to recover our capital. If you two really can't take out so many immortal crystals, you can look at other immortal artifacts. The beautiful female immortal who received the two shook her head with a helpless look on her face. Star Luminous and Star Peng. Both of them were late-stage perfected golden immortals, disciples of the Rosefinch Holy Sect and outstanding geniuses of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. They were less than 2,000 years old, yet they were able to cultivate to the perfected golden immortal stage. They could be ranked among the peerless geniuses in the immortal world. However, at present, the Rosefinch Holy Sect was in a precarious situation. All the disciples of the sect were forced to hole up in the sect, and the consumption of various cultivation resources was huge. This time, after the two learned that the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme was about to open, they begged Sect Master Supreme Star Soul, hoping to get a chance to sneak out of the sect. In the end, the two of them had experienced dozens of assassination attempts. Relying on the immortal artifacts given by Sect Master Supreme Star Soul, they managed to escape from death time and time again, and finally came here incognito. Unfortunately, their innate natal artifacts had been destroyed along the way, so they could only think of ways to buy some immortal artifacts to prepare for the battle after entering the secret palace. However, what made the two of them helpless was that even though the sect gave them some immortal crystals when they came out, they only received a total of 3 million immortal crystals, because the sect was extremely lacking in immortal crystals. They even used 600,000 immortal crystals on the way here. The remaining 4 million immortal crystals were the last of their wealth. A deep disappointment appeared in Star Luminous' eyes and he bitterly said, "Since the price of this Sky Shaker axe can't be any lower, we can only choose other immortal artifacts." Aggrieved, bitter. They were once disciples of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, and they were even direct relatives of the sect. Coupled with their cultivation talents, they never lacked immortal crystals and crystal essences. The various resources were inexhaustible, so how could he worry about a mere few million immortal crystals? Senior brother, this Sky Shaker axe is already the lowest grade immortal artifact you can take a fancy to. If you look for other immortal artifacts with a lower price, it will greatly reduce your combat power, said Star Peng bitterly. But we can't take out so many immortal crystals to buy this Sky Shaker axe, said Star Luminous helplessly. Also, that half-moon immortal saber you took a fancy to is the most suitable immortal artifact for you. In the past, Tan Xiao walked over with Apotheosis Bella. Just as he uttered those two words, he attracted the attention of Star Luminous, Star Peng, and the female immortal of the Refiner sect. Then he lightly said, "I once encountered 2 young friends in such a difficult situation. A certain senior happened to pass by and paid for the immortal artifacts for me with the words fate. Furthermore, I narrowly escaped death several times in the following days. The past scenes are still vivid in my mind. I deeply sympathize with you 2 young friends after seeing your encounter. I'll pay for these 2 immortal artifacts for you." What? Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged dismayed glances with disbelief on their faces. Never in their wildest dreams had they imagined that when they were so poor that they couldn't even afford a celestial artifact, they would actually encounter a generous fated person. "May I know your name, Senior? We Marshall brothers will never forget today's grace." Star Luminous looked grateful and respectfully cupped his fists. Tan Xiao lightly smiled and said, "I don't need to pretend to be indifferent since it's a good karma. I'm Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, so you can just call me Senior." "Thank you, Senior Great Tang." The duo bowed again. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, "I told you that this is fate between us, so you don't need to be polite to me. Live well and become stronger in the future. Only then will you have the chance to repay this friendship. Let me think about it. Since the immortal artifacts here are so cheap, each of you should choose a defensive immortal artifact. You'll only be able to survive in the future if you have more capital to protect yourself. Only then will you be able to repay my kindness. The duo looked hesitant. On the contrary, the female immortal had a strange look on her beautiful face. There was even a flash of envy in her eyes. Looking at their hesitant expressions, Tanxio lightly said, "Don't refuse others' help when you're in a difficult situation. Because only by surviving, only by becoming stronger, is what you need to do the most. Also, you only have one chance. If you choose to refuse, you'll never get a defensive immortal artifact again." Star Luminous and Star Ping glanced at each other and nodded. After thanking Tanxio, they each took an offensive immortal artifact, and then chose a defensive one that suited them. Only then did they look at Tanxio with an embarrassed expression. Tanxio shifted to the female immortal and lightly asked, "How many immortal crystals in total?" After calculating, the female immortal respectfully said, "A total of 34 million immortal crystals." Tanxio took out 340,000 crystal essences and handed them to the female immortal. Then he lightly said, "Count them. If the number is correct, then the deal is completed." Understood. Quickly after, the female immortal respectfully said, "The number is correct." Tanxio turned to look at Star Luminous and Star Peng. After pondering for a while, he said, "There's still half a year before the secret palace opens. Even if you're golden immortals, it's not good for you to live in the open. If you two are willing to run some errands for me and handle some trivial matters in the next 6 months, I'll take you in. Also, I'll pay you 1 million crystal essences as a reward if the things you do for me are dangerous. How about it? 1 million crystal essences?" Star Luminous and Star Peng's eyes immediately lit up. With so many crystal essences, even the hundreds of thousands of people in the Rosefinch Holy Sect wouldn't have enough, right? Humans die for wealth, just as birds die for food. Let's do it. The duo quickly exchanged glances and respectfully said, "We're willing to serve you for half a year, Senior Great Tang." Tanxio nodded with satisfaction and said, "Since you've bought what you want, then come with me." "Senior Great Tang, we still have 4 million immortal crystals left, so we want to buy some healing pills," said Star Luminous hurriedly. "We've exhausted all the healing pills we have in order to get here." Tanxio quietly observed the duo. He could see the bitter expression on their faces and secretly sighed inwardly. From Star Luminous' words, he could guess that the two of them had probably gone through a lot of crises for them to come here alive. Else, as golden immortals, it was impossible for them to not carry some healing pills. In the next moment, Tanxio took out 2 jade bottles from his interspatial ring and threw them to them like throwing garbage. Then he lightly said, "What kind of healing pills can you buy with those immortal crystals? How many can you buy as a spare? Let's go. Don't waste my time." Chapter 13:21. Star Luminous and Star Peng took the jade bottles. When they unplugged the cork and smelled the medicinal fragrance drifting out of the bottles, a wry smile appeared on their faces. Purple scent pills. Each purple scent pill was worth millions of immortal crystals. Even if a golden immortal was seriously injured, they could recover in just a few days after taking a purple scent pill. What made the duo speechless was that this mysterious Great Tang Heavenly Emperor actually threw 10 pills to each of them as if they were trash. 20. A purple scent pill was worth millions of immortal crystals, so the total value of 20 purple scent pills was 20 million immortal crystals. Coupled with the 34 million immortal crystals he used to buy immortal artifacts for them, he actually threw out 54 million immortal crystals in front of them in just a quarter of an hour. This was really how rich and overbearing. The duo put the jade pendants into their interspatial rings with wry smiles and obediently followed behind Tanxio. Their eyes were full of curiosity as they kept wandering back and forth between Tanxio and Apotheosis Bella. They silently pondered inwardly. Where did this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor come from? They had never heard of this name before. Boundless Mountain Range. Tanshio summoned the myriad golden sail on the riverside millions of miles away, causing it to expand into a ship-shaped building that covered an area of several kilometers. Then the door opened and the four of them floated inside. The myriad golden sail had a total of 3 floors. Apart from the spacious hall on the first floor, there were 24 relatively small rooms, each of which was empty. Apart from the hall in the middle of the second floor, there were corridors with more than 100 rooms on both sides of the corridor. Apart from the corridor on the third floor, there were 4 rooms of the same size. One could easily see the scene outside through the profound crystal window. You can choose whichever room you want to live on the second floor. But you're not allowed to go to the third floor without my permission. After saying that, Tanshio led Apotheosis Bella to the third floor. Shortly after, he took out one item after another from the space ring. They were all household items that he had bought during the last period on Earth. In his space ring, there were even hundreds of the world's top Simmons beds. This did not include the large number of military beds that Gu Xiaoxue and the others had bought. These things are very unique. Apotheosis Bella curiously looked at the things Tanshio took out, and quickly put them together to form a strange space. She then reached out her hand to take out a table lamp and said curiously. Tanshio faintly smiled. Since there was a spare battery in the table lamp, he walked over and turned it on. As the lamp lit up, he smiled and said, "This is a technological product from Earth. I brought everything here from Earth." In the past, I didn't care about the so-called technology at all. But now that I've been reborn, I've realized that cultivation has its own benefits, and technology has its own advantages. Once I'm done here, I plan to head to the technocracy and get my hands on a large number of technological armors. Apotheosis Bella frowned and said, "I've seen those technological armaments you mentioned before. However, they weren't part of the ordinary territories of the immortal world. Instead, they were located in the distant void, with civilizations and empires of various levels. Those technological armors seem to be very lousy. I can smash a huge battleship with a slap." There are also differences between technological armors. Tanshio lightly smiled and said, "High-grade battleships with huge power can even kill golden immortals. Even the main cannons of top-grade battleships can pose a threat to perfected golden immortals. Bella, don't look down on anything. Those things can exist, so their value can be explained." Apotheosis Bella gave it a thought and felt that Tanshio's words made sense. However, she was a dignified supremacy stage powerhouse, so she still looked down on those so-called technological armors. She casually smiled and said, "I'll accompany you since you want to go. Just think of it as finding something new to do and going out to relax." "All right." Tanshio nodded with a smile. On the second floor, Star Luminous and Star Pung didn't separate from each other. With a strange expression, they randomly picked a room and immediately arranged a soundproof array. Then they took out 2 cushions from their interspatial rings and sat cross-legged. "Senior brother, I think there's something wrong with this great Tang Heavenly Emperor." Star Peng's eyes flickered and he spoke in a low voice. Star Luminous nodded slowly and said, "I also think there's something wrong with him, but I don't sense any killing intent from him. Given his cultivation and the strength of that woman next to him, I'm afraid it won't be difficult for him to kill us. Yet, they didn't do anything to us, which shows that they have no malice toward us." "We can't conclude whether they have any malice or not yet," said Star Pung. "There are too many people in this world who need help, so why does it have to fall on our heads?" "You mean what is he trying to do with us?" asked Star Luminous. "That should be the case." Star Pung nodded and said, "We've changed our appearance and even disguised our aura. Only those who are very familiar with us can guess our true identity. We've never met this great Tang Heavenly Emperor, so he shouldn't know our true identity. Therefore, I'm afraid it's not as simple as forming a good relationship with us since he has done so much for us. Maybe he's plotting something and wants to use us." Star Luminous nodded silently and said, "We can't rule out this possibility. However, I can't figure out what he wants to use us for." Star Pung squinted his eyes and said, "He may not have any way to use us now, but that may change after we enter the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme." Star Luminous' expression moved. After thinking for a long time, he slowly said, We can't get the answer even if we just make wild guesses now. Whether he wants to use us or not, we only need to remember one thing. To always be on guard against others and immediately retreat once we find something amiss. Well, that's the only way. Starpung nodded silently and said, let's seize the time to refine our immortal artifacts before the secret palace opens. We'll have more life-saving means when we enter the secret palace. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 4 months had passed and there were only 2 months left before the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme opened. During this period, Tanshio and Apotheosis Bella stayed on the 3rd floor of the myriad golden sails. Aside from cultivating every day, they also observed the surrounding movements. Dual cultivation. An immortal couple's affair. After Tanshio and Apotheosis Bella dual cultivated, Tanshio cultivated primal chaos force, a high-level power several levels higher than immortal force. Apotheosis Bella, on the other hand, was a supremacy stage powerhouse. Coupled with her virgin body, the density of her Yin essence had reached an unimaginable level. Therefore, both of them obtained huge benefits and their cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis is really mysterious. Although I can't comprehend or cultivate it, the benefits it has brought me in the past few months are simply unimaginable. According to my usual cultivation speed, the harvest I've gained in just a few months is equivalent to hundreds of years of solitary cultivation. Apotheosis Bella hadn't broken through to the supremacy stage for a long time. Due to the continuous battles, she constantly suffered heavy injuries and didn't have much time to stabilize her realm. But in the past few months, her realm had become very stable, and the power she could unleash had increased by at least 1/10. Tanshio didn't talk to her about this issue, and instead came to the window to look outside. Apart from immortals everywhere, there were also palaces within a range of 50,000 miles. The two of them didn't encounter any familiar people during this period. Occasionally, some familiar figures would fly past them, but they chose to remain silent. Bella, there are only 2 months left. I need to scout out the situation outside. Great Emperor Danqing doesn't like lively places and has always lived in seclusion, so he shouldn't have come to the boundless mountain range. But Zither Demon Jiuyao is a very active person, and wants to go wherever there is a major event in the immortal world, so he should be here. You're a supremacy stage powerhouse, so even if perfected golden immortals can't detect your cultivation, supremacy stage powerhouses should be able to detect it. Therefore, you'll stay here to prevent those supremacy stage powerhouses from bumping into you. Tanshio turned around and said seriously. Apotheosis Bella thought for a while and nodded. You have Star Tears and Sablefiend Scorpio with you, so I can rest assured. However, there are countless powerhouses coming from all over the immortal world on the eve of such a major event, and many people with grudges will have conflicts with each other. It's very chaotic, so you must pay attention to your safety and don't easily clash with others. Tanshio nodded and said, Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Having said that, when Tanshio came to the 2nd floor, he found that Star Luminous and Star Pung weren't cultivating in their rooms, but were standing on the edge of the cabin and looking around. He immediately floated over and lightly said, Do you want to take a stroll outside? Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. The duo hurriedly saluted Tanshio and then Star Luminous said, We do want to take a stroll around. After all, countless forces will be involved in the secret palace's opening. We want to inquire about the number of forces and powerhouses who are preparing to enter the secret palace. I'm afraid very few celestial immortals and profound immortals dare to enter the secret palace, said Tanshio. They know very well that entering the secret palace is tantamount to being robbed of the treasures inside, and the chances of getting killed are too high. There are at least 1 million perfected golden immortals in the entire immortal world, and at least half of them will choose to enter the secret palace for the inheritance of Drunken Immortal Supreme. As for golden immortals, the number is probably even larger. Hence, there's no need for you to inquire about it. Tanshio looked at the slightly changed expressions of the duo, and secretly sighed inwardly. How could he not guess that the duo mainly wanted to inquire about the enemy's situation? However, he didn't expose it and lightly said, But since you two want to go out and stroll around, I'm bored staying here, so accompany me. Maybe there'll be some unexpected gains. The return to the immortal world would come to an end at the end of this month, but the story wouldn't end just like that. Quiet Night will continue to bring happiness to everyone in the form of a story. The brothers and sisters will decide who to write the story and what kind of story to write. You can vote for today's story after following the WeChat account. Quiet Night's WeChat account is JYGS00, or you can directly search for Quiet Night and follow it _. Chapter 13:22. Between the palaces, a large number of immortals were either hurrying or sitting in meditation. Roads were formed between the tens of thousands of palaces. Tanxiu led Star Luminous and Star Peng to walk quietly on the road. His eyes casually glanced around, observing the palaces and immortals in the surroundings. Today, the weakest ones who dared to appear here were ordinary immortals. Mortals were afraid of encountering hot-tempered immortals here and bringing disaster to them. Countless faces made Tanxiu feel strange to almost all of them. It wasn't surprising since he rarely went out since he became a supremacy. Even if he did go out, it was either for important matters or to visit his old friends. He rarely interacted with low-level immortals. 7 days later, Tanxiu finally saw a familiar face. A murderous intent burst out from his eyes after seeing that person. But in the next moment he turned to look at Star Luminous and Star Peng and lightly said, "I can feel the murderous aura coming from you too. Even if you're perfected golden immortals, you can't provoke trouble here. Think clearly about your purpose in coming here. You're not here to seek revenge, but to snatch the immortal fate." Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged glances and immediately restrained their murderous aura. They then stared at the thin man sitting cross-legged outside a palace thousands of meters away like a watchdog. Then they nodded to Tanxiu and remained silent. Argent Marshal Hale. He was Tanxiu's former disciple. Although he was young, his cultivation talent was excellent, and he possessed ice and fire dual veins. Eventually, Tanxiu took a fancy to him and accepted him as his disciple and carefully taught him for hundreds of years. Argent Marshal Hale's cultivation was only at the early stage of Golden Immortal 7 or 800 years ago. Unexpectedly, he had reached the late stage of Golden Immortal in such a short time. They then changed their route and continued moving forward. Tanxiu looked around and quietly listened to the conversations of many immortals. Soon he learned a lot of things. He had even heard about the location of the Inner Pill sect and the Wuxia Palace. "Let's go to the Boundless City," Tanxiu said casually, and then floated up and flew toward the nearest small city in the Boundless Mountain Range. Star Luminous and Star Peng exchanged glances and immediately flew up to follow Tanxiu. Boundless City, built atop a towering mountain, the entire city was an immortal artifact. Additionally, it was a grade 9 palace-type immortal artifact. The person who controlled this 9th-grade palace artifact was a perfected golden immortal, and even his master, Elder Jin Feng, respectfully and cautiously received the guests. The inheritance secret palace left behind by drunken immortal supreme was about to open, causing a large number of powerhouses from the immortal world to arrive. Not only did Vast Expanse City's Star Guardian act as if he was treading on thin ice, respectfully and cautiously entertaining the guests, but even his master, Old Man Gold Peak, also came to oversee this place. No one wanted to cause trouble and have a feud with a supreme powerhouse before the secret of immortals and of them, and of masters of people around. The mortals and immortals who lived here all carefully served the experts who came from all directions. Many of them were even rewarded handsomely. Yutian. He was a cultivator who lived in Boundless City for 18 years. Although he was only at the Golden Core stage, he lived a very comfortable life because of his slick character. Every day, he wandered around the city, acting as a guide for some immortals. His blacksmith father wanted nothing more than to break his legs and tie him up at home to learn blacksmithing and artifact forging for a living. "Yesterday I got an immortal crystal as a reward. If I can meet some rich guest today, I might get more than yesterday. It's a pity that this city is too small and those immortals are too fast. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have made a lot of money by accompanying them for a few days." Inside the city gate, Yu Tian sat cross-legged on the stone edge of the roadside, looking up at the immortals going in and out of the city gate, silently wondering which of them would be rich guests. Which of them would want to look for a guide? Get lost, I don't want a guide. A young man who was also a guide greeted a group of well-dressed and aggressive immortals, but was slapped away by the young immortal leading them. Fortunately, the young man's cultivation was not bad. He was an expert at the nascent soul stage. Otherwise, the young immortal's slap would have killed him instantly. Miserable, so miserable. Yu Tian curled his lips and sighed. He knew that guy at the nascent soul stage. He used to be a respected figure in Boundless City, but since 2 years ago, he actually put down his pride and came out to be a guide. In the past 2 years, although that guy had been bullied a lot, he also earned a lot of money from those experts by acting as a guide. Then Yu Tian's gaze fell on the group of people. When he heard the clamor behind them, he immediately understood that these people were from the Myriad Sword Sect, and the young man leading them was the Myriad Sword Sect's young master. The Myriad Sword Sect is bullshit. It's just a dog. In the past 2 years, Yu Tian had heard too much news. Naturally, he knew that the Myriad Sword Sect was a second-rate sect on the surface, but in fact it was a sect attached to the Everlasting Palace. Just like a dog, wherever the Everlasting Palace pointed, the Myriad Sword Sect would bite. I heard that the Myriad Sword Sect has been particularly arrogant in the past hundreds of years. Even the once powerful Rosefinch Holy Sect was bullied miserably by them. Alas, it's like a dog relying on its master's power. Yu Tian secretly shook his head. After retracting his gaze from the group of Myriad Sword Sect people, he shifted his gaze to some people who just entered the city. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and his eyes fell on a handsome young man in bright clothes. A few seconds later, he looked at the 2 people behind the young man. After pondering for a moment, he walked forward with an obsequious smile and respectfully said, "Senior Immortal, you have an extraordinary bearing, handsome, and unrestrained bearing. You're really unfamiliar to me. Is it your first time in Boundless City?" Tanshio smiled and nodded, asking, "Are you a guide?" The young man gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Senior Immortal's vision is like a torch. You're truly a dragon among immortals. This lowly one really admires you. This lowly one has been in Boundless City for 18 years and knows every flower, grass, tree, and wood here like the back of my hand. Especially in recent years, since the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme in the Boundless Mountain Range is about to open, so countless forces and powerful beings from the immortal domains have come here. I also know a lot about some special situations here." Tanshio casually threw an immortal crystal to Yu Tian, who was pleasantly surprised to receive it. Then he nodded and bowed with an obsequious smile and said, "If you don't lie to me, you'll be rewarded. But if you dare to brag to me, don't blame me for killing you if you don't know anything." Yes. "This lowly one will absolutely tell you everything I know," replied Yu Tian with a tense expression and carefully. "Are there any inns in Boundless City that are still available?" asked Tanshio. "All the restaurants and inns are full." Yu Tian shook his head and said, "Let alone the inns, even most of the aborigines have been driven out of Boundless City and their homes have been occupied." Tanshio squinted his eyes and slowly nodded. "Accompany us to stroll around Boundless City. We don't need to fly, just walk." "Walking?" Yu Tian looked surprised and said, "Senior Immortal, even if Boundless City is not very big, it will take at least a year and a half to stroll around every street if we walk at our normal speed." Tanshio thought for a while and said, "Then let's find a means of transportation. Here are 20 immortal crystals. You can rent it and take the rest as a reward for your hard work." Yu Tian's eyes lit up and hurriedly asked, "How long do you need to rent it, Senior Immortal?" Tanshio thought for a while and said, 10 days. I think we'll be able to stroll around the entire Boundless City in 10 days. "No problem. I'll go right away," said Yu Tian hurriedly. Quickly, Yu Tian drove 2 wind-type beasts over, and behind them was a luxurious caravan. After Tanshio, Star Luminous, and Star Pung boarded the caravan, Tanshio then said, "You drive the carriage." According to your own calculation, you have to stroll around Boundless City in 10 days. Remember, you don't need to be too fast or too slow. 10 days is just right. No problem. Yutian was very happy inside. Renting a wind-type beast caravan only cost 1 immortal crystal a day, which meant 10 immortal crystals for 10 days, so he still had 10 left. Adding the 1 Tanshio gave him before, he could earn 11 immortal crystals in 10 days, which was simply a fortune. Tangshio looked at both sides and said, "All right, let's stroll around and introduce the surroundings to us. What kind of place is this and what kind of people live here? You can also tell us about the immortals you think we should introduce or the interesting things that happened here in the past few years. If you can satisfy me, I'll give you 10 more immortal crystals after 10 days. Give me 10 more? Yutian gulped down his saliva and nodded with glowing eyes. He then began to introduce the buildings along the way to Tanshio, as well as the immortals of many forces. He was very good at expressing himself, and had a very clear understanding of the current situation in Boundless City. Through his introduction, Tanshio gradually learned about the sects, clans, and a large number of forces that he had never heard of before. That's the 100 Joy House up ahead. It used to be a brothel, a place where some girls used to make a living, but it was occupied by people from the Everlasting Palace. I heard that the good-looking girls stayed in the 100 Joy House to serve them, while the ugly ones were sent away with money. In the past 2 years, more than a dozen powerhouses came to this 100 Joy House to have fun with the girls here, but they ended up having conflicts with the people from the Everlasting Palace. In the end, all the people who came here suffered losses and left. I heard that there's a supremacy stage powerhouse living in this 100 Joy House, but I've never seen who he is or what he looks like. The Everlasting Palace? A chilling light flashed in Tanshio's eyes. The Everlasting Palace was the sect that Zither Demon Jiuyao belonged to. Although it was a bit inferior to the Rosefinch Holy Sect, the gap was not that big, and it was also one of the top sects in the immortal world. 800 years ago, the entire Everlasting Palace had 2 supremacy stage powerhouses, but there was no Myriad Thunder Supreme. Chapter 1323. Star Luminous, who stood beside Tanshio with a gloomy expression, slowly said, "How many experts did the Everlasting Palace send? Are there any outstanding characters?" Yutian turned to glance at Star Luminous and slowly shook his head. "I don't know exactly how many experts have come, but according to my observation, there should be at least a few hundred people, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stay in this 100 Joy building. As for outstanding characters, there is one." "What's it called?" Star Luminous asked. "I heard from others that he's a perfected golden immortal called Toad Monster," said Yutian. "He's very powerful. Back then, the experts who came to the 100 Joyous House to look for girls were all beaten out by him." "Toad Monster?" Star Luminous and Star Pung glanced at each other, hatred flashing across their faces. If it weren't for the fact that they knew each other's strength, they would have rushed out and killed them. Tanshio asked lightly, "What? Do you have a grudge against him?" "I'm just asking casually." Star Luminous hurriedly shook his head and said, "After all, many forces came to the 100 Joyous House to have fun, yet they were all driven away by the Everlasting Palace's people. The more we know about the Everlasting Palace's people, the earlier we can guard against them when we arrive at the secret palace in the future." Tanshio nodded slowly, satisfied with Star Luminous' answer. Hiding their identities and waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. Only by knowing how to endure could they survive and compete with the other party again and again. It seemed that his teachings to these 2 little fellows back then had not been in vain. 8 days later, when the caravan passed by a tea house, Yutian introduced, "The immortals of the Inner Pill sect live here. There are hundreds of them, and I heard that their leader is Venerable 100 Refined Immortal, a terrifying supremacy stage powerhouse. Rumor has it that this Inner Pill sect is a great alchemy sect in the immortal world. This time, they even brought a large number of pills with all kinds of miraculous effects. Thus, they are sought after by countless forces. I'm afraid that 100 Refined Immortal Sovereign will be grinning from ear to ear." Tanshio said lightly, "You wait outside, we'll go in and buy the pills." Finished. The moment he stood up, he pressed his hands on Star Luminous and Star Peng's shoulders. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as he floated to the teahouse's door. His eyes swept over the 4 golden immortals guarding the door and lightly said, "I want to buy some immortal pills." The 4 of them cupped their fists and one of them asked, "What is your background?" Tan Xiu casually made up a name and entered the tea house with Star Luminous and Star Prung, who had calmed down. A white-haired old man came to greet them and asked, "Do you have the purple fragrance pill?" The old man sized up Tan Xiu a few times and said with a smile, "There are still some purple fragrance pills left. Honored guests, please follow me." Tan Xiu and the other 2 followed the old man to the 2nd floor and stopped in a corner of the hall. The old man opened the cabinet door, turned around and asked, "How many purple fragrance pills does the esteemed guest need?" "Give us 10 please," said Tan Xiu. The old man faintly smiled and picked a cyan jade bottle. He handed it to Tan Xiu and smilingly said, "There are exactly 10 purple fragrance pills in this porcelain bottle, for a total of 10 million immortal crystals." Tan Xiu took out 100,000 crystal essences and handed it to the old man, asking, "Do you have any thunder pills?" "Thunder pills?" The old man's expression slightly changed. After receiving the 100,000 crystal essences, he cautiously observed Tan Xiu and the other 2 a few times. Then he solemnly said, "We do have some thunder pills here, but only a few. The price of each thunder pill is also very expensive. Do you really want to buy them, honored guest?" "How much?" asked Tan Xiu. 5 million crystal essences," answered the old man. "Give me one." Tan Xiu nodded. It's inevitable to run into some terrifying perfected golden immortals during this trip to the secret palace. I can use this thunder pill to escape if I'm caught in a desperate situation. The old man nodded and said, "Please follow me to the 3rd floor." Star Luminous and Star Pung followed behind the old man and Tan Xiu. Their expressions were a bit strange, and they secretly transmitted their voices to each other. "Senior brother, not only did this great Tang Heavenly Emperor come here with a fake name, but he's also very generous. He even dares to buy a thunder pill. He's definitely not a simple character, so we need to be more vigilant against him." "My opinion is the opposite of yours. Since he's willing to buy a thunder pill, it proves that he has the ability to kill a perfected golden immortal. The power of the lightning core could even kill an early-stage perfected golden immortal expert if he was caught off guard. Even a late-stage perfected golden immortal expert would be severely injured if he was caught off guard and struck by the lightning core. If he wants to harm us, he can directly kill us with just a single thunder pill. Hence, he doesn't need to use any tricks on us." "You're right." Soon after, Tan Xiu bought a thunder pill and paid 5 million crystal essences. He also saw most of the 3rd floor of the tea house and gained some understanding of the inner pill sect inside. He also firmly remembered their appearances in his mind. After leaving the tea house, Tan Xiu looked at Yutian and lightly said, "Take the 6th road on the left and go straight back to the city gate. We'll be several times faster there." "Understood." Yutian didn't know why Tan Xiu changed his mind, but he still respectfully drove the 2 Windrunner beasts back according to Tan Xiu's instructions. A day later, as the caravan passed by the Everlasting Palace's 100 Joyous House, Tan Xiu looked at the weapon shop in the opposite direction and lightly said, "Let's go inside and pick some handy immortal weapons. Wait for us here." Yutian hesitated and said, "Senior Immortal, you can find Blacksmith Old You inside if you really want to buy immortal artifacts here." Looking at the time, he should be busy inside. The price of immortal artifacts will be cheaper if you look for him. "Your surname is Yu, and the blacksmith you mentioned is also surnamed Yu. Are you a family?" Tan Xiu raised his brows. "He's my father," said Yutian with a dry smile. "Usually my father would forge some weapons in his own shop. But in recent years he's been called here for 3 days every 10 days to help the people here forge some gadgets." "Got it." Tan Xiu casually replied and led Star Luminous and Star Pung into the shop's entrance. Thousand Hammer Sect. It was an equally famous artificer sect like the Artificer Sect, and also had a supremacy stage powerhouse overseeing it. Moreover, he was also a Grandmaster Artificer who could refine 9th grade immortal artifacts. "What do you need to buy, honored guests?" A young man in the shop greeted them with a smile and asked, "Just take a look around. You can go and busy yourself first," said Tan Xiu lightly. "We'll naturally call you over if we see a weapon we like." Understood. The smile on the young man's face immediately disappeared, and he turned to leave. After entering the shop, Tan Xiu went straight to a shelf on the second floor. He only glanced at the immortal artifacts placed on it, and then ignored them. His eyes swept through the windows of the opposite building and silently memorized the faces of some people inside. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu turned and left. After returning to the carriage, he lightly said, "We can go now." Star Luminous and Star Peng saw Tan Xiu's behavior, and a huge mystery arose in their hearts. They followed Tan Xiu this time and noticed some clues. "Did you notice it, senior brother? This great Tang Heavenly Emperor is very suspicious," said Star Peng with a voice transmission. "You're right. He's indeed suspicious," replied Star Luminous. "After we came to the Boundless City, he only stopped at 2 places except for the guide at the city gate. The first place is the 100 Joyous Pavilion, where the Everlasting Palace is located. The second place is here, opposite to the Inner Pill Sect. Also, we saw clearly that he didn't come here to buy immortal artifacts but to observe the situation of the Everlasting Palace." "I also noticed that," said Star Peng. "What I'm wondering now is what his true identity is. Why is he secretly observing the Everlasting Palace and the Inner Pill Sect?" A glint flashed in Star Luminous' eyes and he said, "I'm sure that he's not one of us because we've never seen him in the past 700 or 800 years. Unless his current appearance isn't his real appearance, and his aura has changed." "I think he should be one of us, senior brother," said Star Peng. "But I don't know which side he belongs to. Else, he wouldn't have given us immortal artifacts and pills for no reason, nor would he have kept us with him. He wouldn't have secretly observed the Everlasting Palace and the Inner Pill Sect if he wasn't one of us. I don't know if you've noticed a detail or not." "What detail?" Star Luminous' expression shifted, and he immediately asked with a voice transmission. Star Peng said, "When we were outside the Inner Pill Sect, we wanted to kill the people of the Inner Pill Sect, but he directly stood up and pressed his hand on our shoulders." Star Luminous fell into silence. He didn't pay attention to it before, but after hearing Star Peng's words, he immediately realized that it was absolutely abnormal. "Did he discover our true identity?" asked Star Luminous in disbelief after a long time. "I don't know," said Star Peng with a forced smile. Inside the city gate, Tan Xiu took out 10 immortal crystals and casually threw them to Wuxia. Then he lightly said, "You've performed well these days, so this is your reward. Remember, we're strangers from now on. You've never seen us before." "I understand." Wuxia's heart trembled, and he immediately said respectfully. After returning to the Myriad Golden Sail with Star Luminous and Star Peng at the fastest speed, Tan Xiu halted his pace on the second floor. He looked at Star Luminous and Star Peng with a tranquil expression and lightly said, "The harvest this time is pretty good. You two should have inquired about some information you want to know. So you should know who you should pay attention to avoid when you go to the secret palace later, right?" "I got it." The two nodded. "We'll set off in a month and a half," said Tan Xiu. Upon seeing that Tan Xiu wanted to go to the 3rd floor, Star Luminous hurriedly asked, "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, can we ask you something?" Tan Xiu had his back to them and didn't stop his pace. Instead he lightly said, "You've already guessed it, so why bother asking? Some things will lose their meaning once they're revealed." Chapter 1324. The return from the immortal world would end at the end of this month, but the story would not end just like that. Quiet Night will continue to bring happiness to everyone in the form of a side story. Brothers and sisters will decide who to write the side story and what story to write. After following our WeChat account, you can vote under today's image. Quiet Night's WeChat account is JYGS00, or you can just search for Quiet Night and follow us __. Tan Xiu didn't want to expose his identity, even though he knew that Star Luminous and Star Peng were very loyal to the Rosefinch Holy Sect. In today's immortal world, powerful enemies were everywhere. He had yet to find out how many people had taken advantage of the Inner Pill Sect, and the Everlasting Palace's attack on the Rosefinch Holy Sect to help the evildoers. Enemies. He had to kill them all to prevent future troubles. After returning to the immortal world, Tan Xiu had already made some plans, but the first part of the big plan was not to take revenge, but to quickly improve his strength and cultivate a large number of experts. Otherwise, he would not be able to take revenge against the Inner Pill sect and the Everlasting Palace even if his cultivation returned to its peak. He arrived at the 3rd floor. Tan Xiu looked at Apotheosis Bella, who came to greet him and calmly said, "I've already inquired about some useful news. After entering the secret palace of Drunken Immortal Supreme's inheritance, my first task is to plunder the wealth inside. On the other hand, I'll collect some interest first." "Are we targeting the Inner Pill sect and Everlasting Palace?" asked Apotheosis Bella. "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "The number of people from these two forces entering the secret palace is probably not small. However, in order to fight for the opportunity, there was a competitive relationship even among their own people. When the time came, they would definitely not be united, nor would they all move together. As long as they split up, I can fish in troubled waters and cause them some losses. Besides, there was a lot of wealth in the secret palace, but did the Golden Immortals and Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals of both sides not have wealth? It's like killing two birds with one stone. I believe in your ability, but pay attention to your safety." Apotheosis Bella nodded. "After all, there will be many perfected Golden Immortals among the people who will enter the secret palace this time. Some of them even have the strength of perfected Golden Immortals that can almost be compared to early-stage Supremes. You must not take it lightly." Tan Xiu said, "I understand." The 2nd floor. Star Luminous and Star Peng were a bit excited. Although they had made some guesses about the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's identity, they were finally able to confirm that he was one of them. This was simply the best news they had heard in hundreds of years. After all, a powerhouse with unfathomable cultivation belonged to their camp, which might be helpful to them after they entered the secret palace. This Great Tang Heavenly Emperor is very rich. If he really is a friend of our Rosefinch Holy Sect, can we borrow some immortal crystals and crystal essences from him? Our Rosefinch Holy Sect is now at the end of its tether. Without the assistance of immortal crystals and crystal essences, the cultivation speed of our disciples has become very slow. If this goes on, we won't even need a millennium before our sect is breached and our Rosefinch Holy Sect will be destroyed," said Star Peng with a face full of excitement. Star Luminous suppressed the excitement in his heart and forced a smile. "The most important thing now is that we don't know his true identity. If we rashly mention this matter, the other party may not necessarily agree to it. The most important thing is that the current predicament of our Rosefinch Holy Sect must not be spread out easily. Otherwise, once the enemy learns about it, they will monitor us more closely. When that time comes, it'll be impossible for our people to sneak out again." Star Peng felt as though a basin of cold water was poured on him from head to toe, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. He knew that what his senior brother Star Luminous said was right. Everyone else thought that the Rosefinch Holy Sect had a deep heritage and wouldn't lack immortal crystals and crystal essences in a short time. But only their own people were aware of their own situation. For hundreds of years, the sect had been maintaining the sect-guarding Grand Array on the continent, which consumed a terrifying amount of immortal crystals and crystal essences. Coupled with the fact that the clansmen absorbed the immortal force from the immortal crystals and crystal essences to accelerate their cultivation speed, it was like adding snow to snow. Even if the sect had a deep heritage, it was now at the end of its tether after such a long period of consumption. Suddenly, the two of them appeared at the window in a flash and looked at the surging river in the distance with shocked expressions. They could clearly see that above the river, 3 perfected golden immortals were besieging a white-robed immortal. The white-robed immortal was also a perfected golden immortal, but he was a level higher than the 3, at least a mid-level perfected golden immortal. That's strange. How did Tao Master Qingfeng of the pristine Immortal Confucian sect provoke the Myriad Sword sect? The pristine Immortal Confucian sect has always been a sect with a pure heart and few desires. They rarely participate in the battles between the various forces in the immortal world. Star Pung furrowed his brows and muttered with a puzzled look in his eyes. A cold light flashed in Star Luminous' eyes and he said in a deep voice, "Our Rosefinch Holy Sect may not have any friendship with the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect, but the enemy of our enemy is our friend. The Myriad Sword Sect has been following the Everlasting Palaces asked to kill our Rosefinch Holy Sect for hundreds of years. Too many of our friends and relatives have died in the hands of the Myriad Sword Sect's experts. It's all our fault for being too weak. Even if we go out to help, I'm afraid we won't be able to help much. Else, I really want to rush out and fight side by side with the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect's fellow immortals to exterminate all those Myriad Sword Sect bastards." Star Pung also clenched his fists and unwillingly said, "There are too many powerful enemies here. If we rashly help the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect, our identities will surely be exposed, and will be hunted down by powerful enemies." On the third floor, Tan Xiao and Apotheosis Bella also noticed the fight outside. After they appeared at the window, Tan Xiao frowned and asked, "Who are they?" Apotheosis Bella narrowed her eyes and slowly said, "He's Dao Master Qing Feng of the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect. I've met him once. Dao Master Qing Feng is a righteous man with good connections in the immortal world. I'm sure you've seen the clothes worn by those 3 perfected golden immortals, yes? They're from the Myriad Sword Sect." "The pristine Immortal Confucian Sect? The Myriad Sword Sect?" Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows and a glint flashed in his eyes. If it were some other sects and the Myriad Sword Sect's disciples fighting, he might have calmly sat on the fishing platform and turned a blind eye to it. But he had some relationship with the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect, especially since Shui Yu had obtained the inheritance of Dao Master Guai of the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect. She could be regarded as half a disciple of the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect. It wouldn't be a good thing if he just watched. Apotheosis Bella's eyes swept over Tan Xiao's face and slowly asked, "Xiao, do you want to help Dao Master Qing Feng?" Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Shui Yu has obtained the inheritance of Dao Master Guai of the pristine Immortal Confucian Sect, so she can be regarded as half a member of the sect. Besides, the Myriad Sword Sect's evil deeds over the past hundreds of years have caused huge losses to the Rosefinch Holy Sect, so I want to help Dao Master Qing Feng." "I'll go," Apotheosis Bella said. "Let Sablefiend Scorpio go." Tan Xiao shook his head. "She's a late-stage perfected golden immortal, and can fight the 3 perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword Sect alone. Adding Dao Master Qing Feng to the mix, it won't be a problem for him to escape quickly." Apotheosis Bella thought for a while and nodded. "All right. There are too many people from the Myriad Sword Sect here, as well as their backer, the Everlasting Palace. Only death awaits Dao Master Qing Feng if he gets entangled with them. Saving him now is the wisest choice." Tan Xiao summoned Sablefiend Scorpio and said, "Have you seen the fight outside?" "I saw them, but I don't know them," said Sablefiend Scorpio respectfully. "That white-robed immortal is Dao Master Qing Feng of the pristine Immortal Confucianist Sect," said Tan Xiao. "The 3 people fighting him are from the Myriad Sword Sect. I'll give you a mission to help Dao Master Qing Feng. You don't need to kill him, just take him and escape from here as fast as possible. Wait until this storm is over, and then sneak back." "Understood." Sablefiend Scorpio thought that Tan Xiao wanted her to help Dao Master Qing Feng kill the 3 perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword Sect. If that was the case, the difficulty would be greatly increased. But it wouldn't be difficult for her to help Dao Master Qing Feng escape. After a while, Sablefiend Scorpio silently left the Myriad Golden Sail and went to another direction, ready to act at any time. "Ah, Dao Master Qing Feng, even if your cultivation is a level higher than ours, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on for long against the joint attack of us 3 martial brothers. Since you dare to poke your nose into my Myriad Sword Sect's business, you must be prepared to be annihilated." North Sword Xiao of the Myriad Sword Sect stabbed Dao Master Qing Feng with his sword and laughed loudly. "Your Myriad Sword Sect's disciples are tyrannical and even dare to kill mortals wantonly," said Dao Master Qing Feng coldly. "I must meddle in this matter. I'm killing your disciples to tell you that if you dare to kill mortals wantonly and bully them again, There will be others who will meddle in this injustice. The smile on North Sword Xiu's face faded like the tide. He glared at Dao Master Qingfeng and increased his attack power again as he shouted, "Meddling in other people's business will only lead to death. You killed my disciples, so you must pay with your life. Your pristine immortal Confucianist sect may be stationed in Boundless City, but if anyone dares to help you, it's equivalent to starting a sect war with my Myriad Sword sect." Dao Master Qingfeng no longer spoke and kept casting various immortal arts and divine abilities. The scrolls in the sky turned into golden characters that constantly bombarded the attacks of the three enemies. In a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles, at least hundreds of thousands of immortals heard the conversation between the two, and nearly all of them looked at the three perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword sect with contemptuous looks. Although they felt that Dao Master Qingfeng was too stupid to meddle in other people's business, North Sword Xiu actually wanted to bring the sect war to the table, which was simply shameless. Because North Sword Xiu's disciple was killed, so he should avenge his own disciple. Why did he have to drag his two martial brothers into it? And if the people from the pristine immortal Confucianist sect rushed to help Dao Master Qingfeng, it would lead to a sect war? What kind of logic was this? It was simply bullying people just because their Myriad Sword sect was stronger than the pristine immortal Confucianist sect. Among the hundreds of thousands of people, a cold light flashed in Nine Nether Swordmeister's eyes. He unleashed his innate natal immortal artifact and was ready to attack. He and Dao Master Qingfeng had a life-and-death friendship. Now that they met here and saw that Dao Master Qingfeng was in danger, he couldn't care less about provoking a big trouble. Don't move. Chapter 1325. Venerable Netherworld, who stood next to Nine Nether Swordmeister, instantly grabbed his arm and indifferently shook his head. The Myriad Sword sect is behind those three. You should be well aware of the sect's strength. Besides, they have the Everlasting Palace behind them. Even if you can help Dao Master Qingfeng for the time being, I'm afraid that the Myriad Sword sect will hunt you down after the secret palace opens. But I can't just watch Dao Master Qingfeng suffer an accident. Nine Nether Swordmeister angrily retorted. You know what kind of relationship I have with him. Venerable Netherworld was silent for a while and slowly said, Dao Master Qingfeng has a lot of friends. I think there are only a few people like you at the moment. Just wait, and it won't be too late for you to act if someone else attacks. Else, I'm afraid you'll be constantly hunted down in the future once the Myriad Sword sect hates you out of jealousy. But Nine Nether Swordmeister struggled free from Venerable Netherworld's hand and looked hesitant. Venerable Netherworld's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, No buts. There are innumerable powerhouses here, and the relationships between the various forces are complicated. No one can tell who's the enemy and who's the friend. Endure until someone can't bear it anymore, and then you can act. I won't stand idly by when the time comes. Nine Nether Swordmeister hesitated and eventually fell silent. He was perfectly aware that he could only save Dao Master Qingfeng from danger, even if he were to act. It was simply impossible for him to kill the three perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword sect. After all, the Myriad Sword sect's experts were not the only ones who came here. If Venerable Netherworld could help them, the odds of solving the current problem would be much higher. This is interesting. In the northwest, a hazy figure instantly appeared in the middle of the battle. The opponent was a burly man with blue hair and an immortal sword on his back. Blue tide rising. The immortal sword was unsheathed and instantly formed a blue tide of swords that slashed toward the three perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword sect. Nine Nether Swordmeister's expression slightly changed, and he said in a low voice, That Skyocean Immortal Domain's destitute Whale Sea Emperor. I didn't expect him to be friends with Dao Master Qingfeng. Venerable Netherworld shook his head and sighed. This destitute Whale Sea Emperor and Daoist Qingfeng have similar characters and temperament. It's not strange for them to become best friends. It's just that if the poor Whale Sea Emperor makes a move now, he will definitely be hated by the Myriad Sword sect. He is drawing hatred to the sea race of the Heavenly Ocean Immortal Realm. Nine Nether Swordmeister coldly said, Wretched Whale Sea Emperor is a heroic and righteous man who treats his friends with all sincerity. It's for this reason that the Heavenly Ocean Immortal Domain is very solid. Whether it's the Heavenly Ocean Immortal Domain's oceanic clans or the mortals and immortals living on that continent, everyone is very united. On top of that, many powerful cultivators who admire Cheongjing Sea Emperor have all gone to seek refuge with him. As a result, the Heavenly Ocean Mystic region has become very powerful. Unless the 10,000 Sword sect sends their entire sect, they won't be able to cause much damage to Cheongjing Sea Emperor and the Heavenly Ocean Mystic region. Venerable Netherworld nodded silently. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed slightly, and his gaze fell on another figure who attacked. That is, 9 Nether Swordmeister's expression changed. He instantly recognized the other's identity, because he had seen him before. Then he slowly said, "Undemonized Sovereignemo." Venerable Netherworld frowned and murmured, "Undemonized Sovereignemo is neither righteous nor evil in the immortal world. He has always acted casually, but I've never heard of him having any friendship with Dao Master Qingfeng. How come he's willing to offend the Myriad Sword sect and help Dao Master Qingfeng now? I can't care about that anymore. Since even Undemonized Sovereignemo is willing to help Dao Master Qingfeng, I can't just stay here and watch the fun," said 9 Nether Swordmeister in a deep voice. Having said that, his figure then soared into the sky and instantly appeared in the middle of the battle. Then he shouted, "The Myriad Sword sect is relying on their numbers to bully others. I, 9 Nether Swordmeister, can't just watch my old friend Qingfeng get bullied by others." Dao Master Qingfeng was very touched at the moment. He didn't dare to imagine that 3 of his old friends would come forward to help him at this moment. While looking at the 3 powerful enemies of the Myriad Sword sect, he loudly said, "I, Dao Master Qingfeng, can't thank you enough for your friendship, my 3 old friends. You know my character. I don't like hypocrisy. Since you've already taken action, then join me to kill these 3 rascals. Count me in." Venerable Netherworld soared into the sky and brandished his immortal sword, instantly sending North Jianxiu flying. If it wasn't for the fact that North Jianxiu had a very high-grade defensive immortal artifact, he would have been killed by Venerable Netherworld's sword. Venerable Qingfeng stared blankly. Just as he was about to ask about it, he suddenly heard 9 Nether Swordmeister's voice. He immediately understood and gratefully said, "Thank you, Immortal Netherworld." Venerable Netherworld was a bit regretful that he couldn't kill North Sword Xiu with his sword strike. He slowly shook his head and said, "I didn't take action for you, but for this meddlesome brother of mine." 9 Nether Swordmeister laughed aloud and said, "We're best friends, so there's no need to be polite." The Myriad Sword sect is bullying us, so we can't be afraid of them. I once heard a saying from a certain Supreme Great Emperor. He said, "When a friend is in trouble, draw your sword to help him. Be happy with gratitude and enmity, and kill to your heart's content." It's a pity that the Supreme Great Emperor I admire is no longer here. Else some sects wouldn't have dared to be so overbearing and forced others to resist. The hundreds of thousands of immortals present all wore strange expressions. They could tell who that Supreme Great Emperor was from 9 Nether Swordmeister's words. Many powerhouses had also heard of the saying, "When a friend is in trouble, draw your sword to help him. Be happy with gratitude and enmity, and kill to your heart." Star Cultivation Great Emperor. He was once the most dazzling powerhouse in the immortal world. He used to make many friends with this saying, earning the admiration of countless great divine abilities in the immortal world. If it weren't for the fact that their cultivation was too low and they didn't have the qualifications to make friends with Star Cultivation Great Emperor, 80 to 90% of the hundreds of thousands of immortals present would have wanted to make friends with him and become true friends. But now the indigent Whale Sea Emperor, Undemonized Sovereignemo, 9 Nether Swordmeister, and Venerable Netherworld, the 4 perfected golden immortals, all took action to help Dao Master Qingfeng. What was the difference between this and the Rosefinch Holy Sect being besieged by powerful enemies in the past 700 to 800 years? Among the immortals, Sablefiend Scorpio retracted her killing intent and quietly observed the situation before her. The order she received was to save Venerable Qingfeng. Now that 4 perfected golden immortals had taken action, Venerable Qingfeng's life was not in danger for the time being. Hence, she had to see the situation clearly before making a plan. Thousands of miles away, a perfected golden immortal from the Myriad Sword sect, who was in charge of leading the sect's disciples to the boundless mountain range, and was about to enter the secret palace, coldly looked at Tao Master Qingfeng's group of 5 in the air. Next to him, an old man with a calm face and a cold look in his eyes slowly said, "Tell those 3 to give up on besieging Tao Master Qingfeng, and wait until the secret palace opens." The burly late-stage perfected golden immortal from the Myriad Sword sect looked hesitant, but he could only helplessly sigh after seeing the cold look on the old man next to him. He instantly soared into the sky and blasted out an immortal streamer to block the attacks from the 3 sects' powerhouses. His body slightly trembled and he coldly shouted, "I'm North Peak Honglai, an elder of the Myriad Sword sect. 5 of you, please stop for the time being." Upon hearing this, Tao Master Qingfeng's group of 5 immediately gave up on chasing and indifferently stared at North Peak Honglai. "The enmity between us will be settled after the secret palace opens," said North Peak Honglai proudly. "I think all of you are here for the inheritance of Drunken Immortal Supreme in the secret palace. You don't want to fight to the death before entering the secret palace, right?" Tao Master Qingfeng knew that this matter was caused by him, so he immediately cupped his fists and said to the 4 people around him, "Tao Master Qingfeng is very grateful for your help. However, he's right. All of you are here for the inheritance of Drunken Immortal Supreme in the secret palace. Such a great immortal fate can't be affected by my matter. Since the Myriad Sword sect wants to stop for the time being, then we don't need to be overbearing. Whether it's to enter the secret palace or to wait until the secret palace is over, we'll talk about it later." "Alright then." Indigent Whale Sea Emperor shot an indifferent look at North Peak Honglai and immediately snorted coldly. He then flashed back to the camp of the powerhouses from the Heavenly Sea Immortal domain he brought. Undemonized Sovereign Mo had never uttered a word since he attacked. Now that the situation had reached this point, he coldly smiled and said, "I, Wuxia, am a rootless duckweed. I kill whoever I want to kill and help whoever I want to help. If your Myriad Sword sect dares to provoke Tao Master Qingfeng again, don't blame me for slaughtering your sect to vent my dissatisfaction." Having said that, he then turned to look at Tao Master Qingfeng and lightly said, "You and I will be partners from now on. We'll kill 1 enemy if they come, and we'll kill both of them if 2 enemies come." "Understood." Tao Master Qingfeng nodded solemnly and said with a warm feeling inside, "I'll repeat what I said before. Those who bully my friends are my enemies," said Nine Nether Swordmeister indifferently. "I'll deal with them even if I have to lose my life. North Peak Honglai, I Nine Nether Swordmeister, hereby declare that you must be prepared to become my enemy whenever you're ready to deal with my old friend Qingfeng." Having said that, he slightly nodded to Tao Master Qingfeng, and then quickly retreated with Venerable Netherworld. Killing intent surged inside North Peak Honglia's heart, but he suddenly sighed inwardly when he recalled that person's words. Then he slowly said, "It's hard to say who will die and who will live in the secret palace. Since there's a grudge between us, there's no need to wait until the secret palace is over to settle it. I hope we can meet there." "Understood," replied Tao Master Qingfeng indifferently. The battle between powerhouses quickly calmed down. As Tao Master Qingfeng and undemonized Sovereign Mo left, the Myriad Sword sect's people also quickly disappeared before everyone's eyes. Sablefiend Scorpio quietly returned to the Myriad Golden Sail, and directly entered the Heavenly Abode artifact. She didn't ask anything, nor did she want to know the relationship between Tanxiu and Tao Master Qingfeng. The most important thing for her now was to cultivate and serve Tanxiu for 5,000 years. Chapter 1326. The third layer of the Myriad Golden Sail. Tanxiu and Apotheosis Bella stood side by side. Although the battle had ended, the two of them didn't retract their gazes. "I didn't expect Tao Master Qingfeng to have such a good relationship with people." Even Nine Nether Swordmeister and Venerable Netherworld didn't hesitate to offend the Myriad Sword sect. Looks like my good intentions won't come in handy, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Who doesn't have a few true friends after living in the immortal world for thousands of years? Apotheosis Bella smiled and said, It's just that I didn't expect that undemonized Sovereignemo to have a friendship with Dao Master Qing Feng. It seems that the upcoming battle in the secret palace will be more brutal than I imagined. A complicated look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. Apotheosis Bella's words deeply stabbed his heart. He once thought that he had a few life-and-death friends, but in the end, the one who hurt him the most was his best friend. I suddenly feel a bit regretful. Tan Xiu suddenly said. Apotheosis Bella turned her head with a confused look on her beautiful face and asked, Regretful about what? I regret that I brought too few perfected golden immortals, said Tan Xiu. Otherwise, I could have hunted more happily in the secret palace. Apotheosis Bella forced a smile and said, Xiu, I don't want you to take risks before you become stronger. When we fought side by side, we were chased by powerful enemies. You said something to me at that time that I still remember to this day. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. As long as there's life, there's still hope. We'll make our enemies pay a painful price when we become stronger. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and suppressed the killing intent in his heart. He slowly nodded and said, Don't worry. I'm not a reckless person. I won't easily fight them if I don't have full confidence. The main purpose of this trip to the secret palace is to obtain cultivation resources and obtain a lot of wealth. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the secret palace to open. When the red sun rose from the east of the boundless mountains, thousands of rays of light dyed the entire sky the color of blood. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky and landed directly on the undulating mountain range. Ah! Countless cries of agony could be heard coming from the boundless mountains. In order to be the first to enter the secret palace, these people were hiding in the boundless mountain range, preparing to enter the secret palace as soon as it opened. Among them were a large number of golden immortals, and some zenith golden immortals. However, the terrifying pressure was so terrifying that only 4 or 5 perfected golden immortals managed to escape in a sorry state. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that they were seriously injured at this time. If they wanted to enter the secret palace again, the risk factor would increase a lot. At this moment, Tan Xiu had already summoned Sable Fiend Scorpio from the Heavenly Abode artifact. He didn't care about Star Luminous and Star Pang's confused expressions. He looked at the boundless mountain range and slowly said, You're indeed worthy to be the strongest expert in the immortal world 80,000 years ago. Just the immortal light from opening the secret palace is already so powerful. I'm afraid that the secret palace is even more dangerous. We must fight even if it's dangerous, said Star Tears. I'm afraid you won't be able to stay in the Heavenly Abode artifact after entering the secret palace. Tan Xiu nodded and said, But you should be able to return to the Heavenly Abode artifact after we enter. I hope you'll have a great harvest in the secret palace. At this moment, a 7-colored rainbow gradually emerged under the terrifying pressure. A square entrance about 50 kilometers wide appeared and a soft white light instantly spread out. The secret palace has opened. Let's go. A group of figures flashed toward the 50-kilometer wide entrance with tens of thousands of people at the forefront. Nearly all of them were perfected golden immortals, yet all of them disappeared in the white light. Tan Xiu had never seen such a scene before. He looked at the millions of golden immortals and perfected golden immortals rushing toward the entrance of the secret palace. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I suspect there's a teleportation array at the entrance to the secret palace. If we're separated by the teleportation array after we enter, remember to inform each other's location through the message token. The nearest people should immediately gather together. Don't try to show off and call for help immediately if you encounter any danger. Thank you, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. The two cupped their fists and thanked him gratefully. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and flew toward the direction of the entrance. Buzz! When Tang Xiu's figure submerged into the white light, a huge energy instantly wrapped him up. Along with a burst of dizziness, when Tang Xiu's vision was restored, he found that he was already in the middle of a rolling mountain range. The mountain peaks here towered into the clouds and were at least tens of thousands of meters high. There were also nameless trees that stood on the ground and had blue sky above their heads. They were nearly thousands of meters high, and some of them were at least tens of thousands of meters high. Being here made one feel as if they had suddenly become a drop in the ocean. Suddenly, a faint aura came from Tan Xiu's left side. In nearly an instant, Tan Xiu wore an invisibility talisman and restrained all his aura, silently blending into the 10-meter-high bushes. This is the yuanyang fruit. After Tan Xiu calmed down, he glanced around. To his surprise, he saw 9 dazzling golden fruits a dozen meters away. With just a glance, he immediately determined that these were yuanyang fruits, a kind of spiritual fruit that could increase a cultivator's essence. Sure enough, there are treasures everywhere in this secret palace. After 80,000 years, I'm afraid any spiritual grass here has already become extraordinary, right? Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. Half a quarter of an hour later, Tan Xiu sensed that the originally faint aura had become clearer. When a burly man in a golden robe with long hair got closer and closer to him, Tan Xiu could clearly see the other party's face. It was a golden immortal. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and didn't kill the other party. Instead, he quietly waited for the other party to pass by. Then, he quietly picked the 9 yuanyang fruits and put them into his interspatial ring. Afterward, he took out the message talismans of the other 4 and sent them out. Soon after, Tan Xiu received the message talismans sent by the other 4. After figuring out the direction they were teleported to, his brows suddenly wrinkled. It was because he found that Sable Fiend Scorpio was the closest to him, and the distance between the two was tens of millions of kilometers. It might not take a long time to fly there openly, but the two parties needed to avoid other people and stay vigilant against the potential crises in this secret palace. Therefore, they wouldn't meet for a while. Soon, while Tan Xiu was on his way, he met 2 more people, both of whom were golden immortals. Since Tan Xiu couldn't identify them, he didn't alarm them. He watched the 2 of them leave in 2 different directions while guarding against each other. Then he continued on his way. Half a day later, Tan Xiu had only traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers. He encountered more than a dozen groups of immortals along the way, but he didn't encounter anyone, nor did he alarm them. It was only when he discovered that there was a fight ahead that he silently stopped and hid nearby. Tan Xiu clearly saw the 2 parties fighting over an immortal grass. The immortal grass was called solitary thread grass, a very rare immortal grass in the immortal world that had the effect of healing immortals' immortal souls. It even had a very good effect on perfected golden immortals. A late-stage golden immortal expert and an early-stage perfected golden immortal expert. Interesting. That late-stage golden immortal expert has the strength comparable to a perfected golden immortal. It seems his identity isn't simple. It's a pity that he's wearing an immortal mask that isolates spiritual sense from probing. There's no way to see his true appearance. I'll wait for the 2 of them to fight each other to the death, then I'll be the fisherman to reap the benefits. I can't rashly fight with others in this secret palace, else I'll be in more danger once I get injured. As Tan Xiu pondered, he watched the 2 people fighting even more fiercely. Just when the late-stage golden immortal expert was seriously injured by the perfected golden immortal expert, and was about to give up on the solitary thread grass, his expression suddenly changed. 2 unexpected sword lights swept across the nearby thicket. The towering trees were not cut down, but the golden immortal was hit by the 2 immortal swords at the same time, and even his immortal soul was instantly obliterated. Get the fuck out. The perfected golden immortal's expression changed, and he instantly dashed toward the solitary thread grass. In nearly the blink of an eye, he uprooted the solitary thread grass and quickly stuffed it into his interspatial ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of the perfected golden immortal. The white-haired old man on the left in a brown robe grinned and said, "Hand over the solitary thread grass and I'll spare your puny life. Else, you'll end up the same as him." The perfected golden immortal sneered and said in a deep voice, "I may not be your match even if I go all out, but do you dare to chase me openly if I want to escape? Danger lurks everywhere in this secret palace, and if you're unlucky, You'll either run into other powerhouses or the restrictions set up by drunken Immortal Supreme. If you think a solitary thread grass is worth risking your life for, then go ahead and chase me." With that said, his figure had already shot into the distance, and at that moment, his powerful aura had completely erupted. Damn. The complexions of the two perfected golden immortals greatly changed, and they angrily watched the other fleeing at top speed. After chasing for thousands of miles, they directly chose to give up. They indeed didn't dare to chase the enemy in this perilous secret palace, because it was simply not worth it to throw their lives away for a solitary thread grass. Tan Xiu tailed them. Since the perfected golden immortal, who obtained the solitary thread grass, was fleeing in the direction he was heading, he took a detour after the two perfected golden immortals stopped, and followed them all the way. Chapter 1327. Boom! The abrupt saber light severed several towering trees with a diameter of tens of meters. Although the early-stage perfected golden immortal expert had been vigilantly observing the surroundings, he was caught off guard and was severely injured by the attack. He was sent flying and smashed into a tree. In fact, he had already retracted that huge aura, but the enemy was extremely cunning and had actually hidden right in front of him. As a result, the heavy injuries he suffered were extremely serious. Even if he immediately swallowed a purple fragrance pill, he still wouldn't be able to recover from his injuries in a short period of time. "Who are you? Get the fuck out." The perfected golden immortal unleashed his innate artifact, an iron chain-like artifact, and shouted while staring ahead with vigilance. Ahead, a burly figure slowly appeared in front of the perfected golden immortal. His body was over 3 meters tall, and there was a sharp horn on his head. There were even several sharp spikes on his shoulders. The most eye-catching thing about him were his arms. He had a total of 4 arms, and each of them was holding a type of immortal weapon. "Hand over your interspatial ring, and I may spare your life. Else you'll die today." Thornhead Sage licked his purple lips, and his eyes were like a dormant viper as he stared at the perfected golden immortal. "It's you?" Venerable Primal Forest's expression changed. He had seen Thornhead Sage before and knew that the other party was a mid-stage perfected golden immortal. If he were to fight head-on, he wouldn't be his opponent even if he was in his peak state. Not to mention that he had just been seriously injured by the sneak attack. "Hee, it seems you know who I am." Thornhead Sage grinned. "Very well, since you know me, you should know my strength. Do as I say and hand over your interspatial ring to me, and I'll spare your life. Else, I'll kill you in this secret palace even if I have to expose myself and chase you thousands of miles away." Venerable Primordial Forest shouted in a deep voice. "I've fought many powerful enemies since I came to this secret palace. I didn't get any other treasures except for the solitary thread herb. I can give you the solitary thread herb, but we must avoid fighting." "The solitary thread herb?" Thornhead Sage's expression shifted. He could tell that Venerable Primal Forest was afraid of him, and immediately nodded with satisfaction. "Fine. You've paid a big price since you chose to hand over the solitary thread herb. I agree to your request. Take it out." Venerable Primal Forest took out a thread grass from his interspatial ring, and threw it at Thornhead Great Sage. "Good stuff." Thornedge Great Sage was overjoyed. With the single thread grass, even if his immortal soul was seriously injured, it could quickly recover. In this dangerous secret palace, it was equivalent to having half a life. Buzz! The rainbow-like sword shadow instantly swept past piercing Ray Great Sage's eyes. As a defensive immortal artifact on his body shattered, a heavy feeling in his chest caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The moment he grabbed the single thread grass, he prepared to retreat and adjust his breathing before killing this damned bastard. But to his horror, he discovered that dozens of talismans had appeared all around him. Heavenly Talisman Formation. A fiendish grin appeared on Venerable Primordial Forest's face. Along with the explosion of talismans, thread-like lightning finally formed a dazzling star chart. In the blink of an eye, the power of the Heavenly Talisman Formation exploded. Damn it! Thornhead Great Sage instantly put the single thread grass into his interspatial ring, and took out a bamboo hat-shaped defensive immortal artifact. But before he had the time to cover himself, the heavenly talisman formation exploded. The explosion of this formation not only caused Thornhead Great Sage to suffer heavy injuries, but even if he managed to keep his life, he was now riddled with scars and couldn't fight anymore. Venerable Primordial Forest also spurted out a mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for an immortal sword that appeared out of thin air in his hand, he would have fallen down. The heavenly talisman formation was very effective in killing enemies, but its only shortcoming was that it would also affect the user. He was seriously injured before, and now, the aftermath of the heavenly talisman formation made his injury even more serious. Puff! A sword light swept across. Even though Venerable Primordial Forest saw the sword light coming, he was only able to retreat for tens of meters before he was split into two halves. With a horrified expression, his immortal soul was about to flee, but it was hit by a lightning talisman and eventually turned into ashes. Killing people and seizing their treasures is indeed interesting. After Tan Xiao found Venerable Primordial Forest's interspatial ring, he instantly saw Thornhead Great Sage. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile. Ignoring the pleading eyes of Thornhead Great Sage, he killed him and searched his interspatial ring. Then he buried the two bodies as fast as he could and disappeared into the jungle. Half a quarter of an hour later, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 lightning-fast figures instantly appeared at the scene where the fight had taken place. The 3 of them looked at each other with hostility, and were on guard against each other. When they discovered that there were traces of a fight here, they left in 3 different directions at the same time. In the jungle, Tan Xiao quietly hurried along while observing the things in the interspatial rings of Venerable Primordial Forest and Thornhead Great Sage. To his satisfaction, both of them had a lot of good things, including a lot of immortal crystals and crystal essences. Thornhead Great Sage, in particular, had obtained a lot of heavenly and earthly treasures in the short period of time he came to the secret palace. Plus, he had hidden and killed several unlucky people, so the treasures in his interspatial ring were several times more than the wealth of Venerable Primordial Forest. While moving forward, Tan Xiao found a lot of precious medicinal herbs, and even found a lot of immortal stones, immortal crystals, and crystal essences scattered in the bushes. According to Tan Xiao's speculation, the possibility of immortal stones, immortal crystals, and crystal essences in this secret palace was very small. The immortal stones, immortal crystals, and crystal essences that appeared in the bushes were likely discarded by drunken Immortal Supreme before he left. Buzz! Suddenly, Tan Xiao felt as though he had touched a thread. Just when he wanted to retreat, a huge suction force instantly sucked him into a special space. Congratulations on triggering the drunken immortal chessboard, little friend. As a clear voice passed into Tan Xiao's ears, a white-haired and bearded old man appeared out of thin air in front of Tan Xiao. The old man was leaning on a dragon-headed crutch with a purple gold gourd hanging on top of it. A wisp of spiritual sense? Tan Xiao slowly cupped his fists and said, "This junior, Tan Xiao, greet senior drunken immortal." The old man stroked his beard and smilingly asked, "How do you know I'm drunken immortal supreme, little friend?" "Maybe I'm the guardian left by drunken immortal supreme." Tan Xiao lightly smiled and said, "The most notable feature of drunken immortal supreme is that he never leaves his liquor. This is his secret palace, and there's also a wine gourd hanging on your crutch, so naturally, you're drunken immortal supreme." Smart. The wisp of drunken immortal supreme spiritual sense smiled and said, "It's been 80,000 years since the secret palace I left in the immortal world was touched and opened. It's really not easy, and you're the only one among the 3,600 people who have touched the barrier and guessed my identity. That's not easy at all. This venerable one gave me 3 chances to fuse with my soul. If you can answer one of my questions, I'll use it on you once. How about it?" Soul fusion? Communicating with this venerable one in the God world? Tan Xiao was startled inwardly and respectfully said, "Please ask away, senior." The wisp of drunken immortal supreme spiritual sense smiled and asked, "What's the purpose of cultivating?" Tan Xiao didn't even think about it and directly replied, "It's to live." Drunken immortal supreme shook his head and said, "Your answer is ambiguous and nothing new." Tan Xiao said with a straight face, "I've thought about this question you asked countless times, but the answer I got is live." Only by living can one pursue the meaning of the great Tao and pursue the essence of life. Living is to add color to the life imprint, taste emotions, and comprehend the true essence. The longer one lives, the more experience one has, and the more gains one can get. The meaning of life is actually the process, not the result. A fluctuation suddenly came from the wisp of drunken Immortal Supreme's spiritual sense. After a while, a five-colored light flashed in his eyes and firmly locked onto Tan Xiao. A light exclamation entered Tan Xiao's ears. Your aura is a bit familiar, no? Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows and couldn't help laughing. You must be joking, Senior Drunken Immortal. You're in existence from 80,000 years ago, while I'm a cultivator of the present age. We're not from the same era, nor are we in the same space. How can you feel that my aura is familiar? You must be mistaken. Drunken Immortal Supreme shook his head and said, I can't be mistaken. I may not be able to recall this familiar aura, if it's in the distant river of time, but the aura from 800 years ago appeared and disappeared very quickly. I'm quite good at it. Did you cross the tribulation to become a deity 800 years ago? Tan Xiao's expression slightly changed, and he looked at Drunken Immortal Supreme with vigilance. He didn't expect that Drunken Immortal Supreme, who was in the God's realm, would notice him when he crossed the divine tribulation, and was stained with the aura of the God's realm. Are you in the Immortal Exuviate Pond, Senior? Drunken Immortal Supreme slightly nodded and lightly smiled. That's right. Every newcomer who ascends to become a deity must guard the Immortal Exuviate Pond for 100,000 years. But I've only been stationed here for 80,000 years. It's precisely because of this that I sensed your aura. Yet you didn't ascend to the God's realm. I met the wrong person and encountered a predestined tribulation at the critical moment, said Tan Xiao. I had no choice but to recultivate. Drunken Immortal Supreme sighed. It's a pity that only 2 people in the entire immortal world have ascended to become deities in the past 80,000 years. I thought that our world had a new member, but it turned out that he encountered a predestined tribulation. Promise me one thing, and I'll teach you the mysteries of the world cycle array, so that you won't be restricted by any restrictions in the secret palace I left behind. Tan Xiao's eyes lit up and he immediately cupped his fists. Please tell me, Senior Drunken Immortal. Your realm is already high enough, said Drunken Immortal Supreme. You won't face any pressure in recultivating. As long as you don't get killed by powerhouses, it won't be a problem for you to become a deity again in the future. Therefore, my inheritance won't be of much significance to you. You still need to walk your own path. Promise me that you won't get my inheritance, but feel free to take away any treasures in the secret palace if you have the ability to do so. The return to the immortal world would be coming to an end at the end of this month, and the number 1 beauty on the list of returning beauties would be revealed tonight. Next, Quiet Night would begin writing the plot of the main characters on the Prestige public account according to the voting order of the brothers and sisters. If you want to continue reading the wonderful chapters of the return to the immortal world after the end of the book, please follow Quiet Night's WeChat public account as soon as possible. Quiet Night's WeChat public account is JYGS00, or directly search for Quiet Night's Thoughts in the WeChat subscription account. Chapter 1328. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he said, Actually, I came here with such a plan in mind. You may be powerful, but your inheritance will not only be of no help to me, but it will also affect my own cultivation path. I promise you that. Drunken Immortal Supreme nodded with satisfaction. A torrent of knowledge flowed into Tan Xiao's mind, engraving the simple and unsophisticated array formation's profundity in Tan Xiao's mind. Almost in an instant, he looked at the world again. It was no longer an empty environment, but a revolving array pattern. Thank you, Senior. Tan Xiao cupped his fists and said. Drunken Immortal Supreme shook his head and smiled. This is also a part of your immortal fate. I'm looking forward to meeting you soon. I also hope you can treat my inheritor well. Our side is in a disadvantageous position. Only with a steady stream of fresh blood can we. A confused look appeared in Tan Xiao's eyes. When he found that the multicolored light in drunken Immortal Supreme's eyes gradually faded away, he wanted to ask something. But as the real divine might dissipated, his doubts were finally suppressed at the bottom of his heart. He knew that drunken Immortal Supreme had left. However, what did drunken Immortal Supreme's last words mean? Our side is in a disadvantageous position? Was there also a battle in the God realm? Could it be that all the deities who ascended from the immortal world belonged to the same side? Tan Xiao, after all, had a prominent identity and knew a lot of things. Through the last words of drunken Immortal Supreme, he finally determined that the God realm was not stable, and the battles there might be more brutal than in the immortal world. Becoming a deity. For the former Tan Xiao, it was close at hand, but for the current him, it was something very far away. Since it was far away, he decided to put it aside first. Buzz, the wisp of drunken Immortal Supreme's spiritual sense, shot a deep look at Tan Xiao and said with a smile, "Since little friend has obtained this lord's approval, this drunken immortal chessboard is useless to you. These are the 3 treasures inside the drunken immortal chessboard. One is the offensive 9th grade God Cleaving Saber, the other is the defensive 9th grade Immortal Divine Armor, and the last is the Primordial Chaos Dao Core. You can take them all, or you can choose one of them." Tan Xiao said without hesitation, "Take them all." Drunken Immortal Supreme's wisp of spiritual sense faintly smiled and said, "Since all of them have been taken, the barrier here is no longer of any use and my duty is over. Little friend, let's meet again in the God world." Specks of light floated out from drunken Immortal Supreme's wisp of spiritual sense. As Tan Xiao put away all 3 items into his interspatial ring, the world in front of him changed, and he returned to the jungle he was in before. Great harvest. The corners of Tan Xiao's mouth curved into a smile. Through the memories in his mind, he already knew the entire array structure of the secret palace. For example, the entire map had been installed in Tan Xiao's mind. He could clearly see where there were barriers, restrictions, dangerous places, safe places, suitable places to fight, suitable places to hide. A super cheating device. Tan Xiao's smile was particularly bright. Through his memories, he learned that there was a palace millions of miles away on the left, and there were a lot of precious ores inside. Immediately after, Tan Xiao informed Sablefiend Scorpio's group of 4 through the message token, and then rushed there at an extremely fast speed. Knowing the route ahead and ignoring the internal dangers, Tan Xiao only needed to guard against immortal powerhouses. His speed increased several times, and he was like a gust of wind as he hurried forward while searching for precious resources in the surroundings. Just 2 days later, Tan Xiao avoided more than a dozen traps arranged by other immortals, and obtained a lot of cultivation resources without any mishap. Then he appeared near a sparkling lake. At the bottom of the lake are violet coral agates with a total of 1,008 of them forming an immortal pearl protection array. Violet coral agates are very precious refining materials, but I'm sure there must be more valuable treasures inside the immortal pearl protection array. I can clearly see the violet coral agates, but I can't see what's inside the immortal pearl protection array. It'll be very dangerous if I go down to explore. That aquaproof golden eyes beast is very strong, and can definitely be ranked among the top 10 immortal beasts in the secret palace. Unless my cultivation improves, I'll most likely lose my life if I go down there. Tan Xiao was unwilling, but he could only look at the lake and sigh. The total value of 1,008 violet coral agates was enough for him to buy 10 ninth grade immortal artifacts. It would be a big loss if he were to give them up in vain. Suddenly, Tan Xiao's expression changed, and his figure instantly disappeared. After a while, 4 figures slowly appeared. They were 4 people in black robes, 3 men and 1 woman. All of them were perfected golden immortals. Tan Xiao retracted his aura. When he observed the appearance of the 4 people, his complexion slightly changed because he recognized the identity of one of them. He was a disciple of Myriad Sword Sect. One of the people who besieged Dao Master Qing Feng in the periphery of the Boundless Mountain Range was among them. Senior Brother Beijing, we've intercepted and killed dozens of people, but we didn't find anyone from Pristine Immortal Confucianist Sect or Heavenly Ocean Immortal Domain. The Inheritance Secret Palace left by Drunken Immortal Supreme was only open for 3 years. After 3 years, if no one can obtain the inheritance of Drunken Immortal Supreme, this place will be closed and it will take tens of thousands of years, or even longer to reopen. We don't have much time. Junior brother Beixiang, I understand what you said, but this secret palace is almost comparable to a large immortal domain. If we want to find the people of pristine immortal Confucianist sect and heavenly ocean immortal domain here, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So, we can only try our luck. If we're lucky, we'll meet them and kill them to vent our anger. If we don't, we can only go all out to snatch immortal artifacts, cultivation resources, and try our best to find the place of inheritance to snatch this immortal opportunity. If I meet Dao Master Qing Feng and those bastards, I'll definitely kill them all like I killed those unlucky bastards from Rosefinch Holy Sect. That's right, we're lucky to meet them. Killing them to vent our anger and snatching treasures is a double harvest. Tan Xiu watched the 4 people pass by and quickly disappear into the dense forest in the distance. Suddenly, the killing intent in his heart intensified. Those bastards from Myriad Sword Sect must have killed many people from Rosefinch Holy Sect. Since he met them here, he must not let them off easily. After Tan Xiu quickly followed them, his mind raced, hoping to find a good way to kill these 4 enemies from Myriad Sword Sect. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's footsteps instantly stopped. As a light flashed in his eyes, a brilliant idea suddenly emerged in his mind. In the next moment his aura flickered, and his divine sense directly enveloped the 4 people. Although there was a lot of time and only a split second, the 4 people in front of him still discovered Tang Xiu. Reckless fool. The 4 people immediately returned and flashed toward Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu already had a plan in mind and didn't want to be entangled with the 4 people, so he quickly returned the way he came. When he appeared at the lakeside, he took out an immortal sword from his interspatial ring, and vigilantly watched the 4 perfected golden immortals from Myriad Sword Sect. Except for that woman who's a mid-stage perfected golden immortal, the other 3 are early-stage perfected golden immortals. Given their strength, they should be on par with the golden-eyed aquaproof beast in the lake. I just need to lure them into the lake, and then wake up the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. Then I can do something myself. As he thought up to there, Tan Xiu immediately looked at the 4 people and shouted, "Where the hell did you 4 come from? Why are you chasing me?" Venerable North Pure sneered and lightly said, "You dared to release your divine sense in this secret palace and sneakily followed the 4 of us. That means you're harboring evil intentions and want to play with us. Tell me, what's your name? If I'm satisfied with your answer, I may leave you with your immortal soul and give you a chance to reincarnate." Tan Xiu frowned deeply and angrily shouted, "You're not a good person at first glance. You actually want to kill me? Let me tell you, I'm a late-stage golden immortal. If you dare to join forces, I'll risk being discovered by many powerhouses in the immortal world and kill all of you." A contemptuous look flashed in Venerable North Pure's eyes. He exchanged glances with the other 3 and immediately sneered. "You're just a puny golden immortal. Yet you dare to clamor with us 4 perfected golden immortals? You're really tired of living. What's the saying again? The ignorant are fearless. It seems that an ant-like little guy like you will die if you enter this place." With that said, he immediately unleashed his immortal sword and slammed it toward Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu deliberately showed a horrified look and jumped into the lake almost instantly. Then he quickly dove down. He was able to sense that the 4 golden immortal realm experts behind him had caught up to him, and they seemed as if they swore to kill him. "You're courting death, so I'll fulfill your wish." Tan Xiu dove to a depth of a kilometer, and suddenly stopped. He instantly unleashed his divine sword and fiercely swept it toward the 4 people. The sharp sword energy tore the water layer, and turned into a kilometer-long sword beam that fiercely bombarded the 4 people. Bam, bam, bam. The 4 people were caught off guard and their bodies retreated backward. Never in their dreams did they expect that a puny golden immortal weakling would dare to brazenly attack 4 perfected golden immortals at the same time. What made them feel humiliated was that the strike came without warning. Although they tried their best to block it, their boiling blood made them realize that the strike just now had caused them minor injuries. "Kill him." The black-robed female perfected golden immortal unleashed a murderous aura that could almost materialize. Even though they were separated by the water layer, She still aggressively rushed toward Tan Xiao. Venerable North Pure also instantly caught up and said in a deep voice, "This brat is a bit strange. His aura shows that he's at most an earth immortal, but the power he unleashed is comparable to that of a perfected golden immortal. It seems that he must have an extraordinary divine weapon. Let's attack together and try to kill him as fast as possible." Understood. The four people attacked one after another, causing a vacuum to form a kilometer below. Chapter 1329. At the bottom of the 1,000-meter deep lake, Tan Xiao's eyes and ears were alert in all directions. Looking at the four perfected golden immortals rushing at him, he instantly released his surging aura and forced the lake water several meters around him away. He then instantly cast the ninth heaven thunder art. Boom, boom! Lightning bolts fell from the sky and blasted into the deep lake. The lightning bolts were like electric fishes in the lake, and instantly weaved the lake water into an electric net. The four perfected golden immortals who pounced at Tan Xiao had their complexions greatly changed. They could no longer continue to attack Tan Xiao and unleashed powerful attacks one after another to force the surrounding lake water away, so that the electric currents wouldn't touch them. Retreat. Tan Xiao didn't want to continue fighting and retreated backward. At the same time, he sensed a terrifying aura quickly moving in another direction. He quickly converged his aura and took out the invisibility talisman again to hide his body. Be careful, everyone. Venerable North Pure could only watch as Tan Xiao's figure disappeared into thin air. After sensing that Tan Xiao's aura was rapidly weakening, he immediately looked vigilant and shouted in a deep voice. The black-robed woman's expression suddenly changed, and she said in a deep voice, "There's another powerhouse in this lake, and he's approaching us at an extremely fast speed. Everyone be careful. Even if it's a late-stage perfected golden immortal, it's impossible to keep us here if he wants to fight the four of us alone." In just a few breaths, the four of them had already seen the golden crystal aquaproof beast in their line of sight. However, they didn't show the slightest fear despite the powerful aura emanating from the beast. Instead, their eyes were filled with greed as they stared fixedly at the top of the golden crystal aquaproof beast's head. It was a crown. They couldn't tell what material the crown was made of, but they could recognize the 18 gorgeous and dazzling dragon balls inlaid on the crown. Each dragon ball was formed by condensing all the essence of a 5-colored divine dragon on the dragon core after the death of the 5-colored divine dragon. At the very front of the crown, there was a heart of the earth. The fist-sized heart of the earth was crimson, and it was filled with a dense life aura. Putting aside the fact that each 5-colored dragon pearl was a priceless treasure, just the heart of the earth alone was a treasure that countless immortals dreamed of obtaining. Even honorable realm experts dreamed of obtaining one. Kill it and obtain the 5-colored dragon pearl and the heart of the earth. The four of them looked at each other and shouted in a deep voice. Boom! The golden-eyed aquaproof beast was the first to launch an attack. It opened its big mouth and a torrent of water sprayed out from its mouth. The torrent of water was like a cannonball, instantly attacking the four people. Gold divine shield. Quicksand net. Black gold immortal plate. 10,000 tenacity stone. Venerable North Pure's group of four released their defensive immortal artifacts at the same time, forming four defensive nets in front of them. Before figuring out the true strength of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast, they chose to defend. Boom! The flood, which was dozens of meters in diameter, bombarded the four defensive immortal artifacts. Cracks kept appearing on the four defensive immortal artifacts before breaking apart. The flood bombarded the four of them. Puff! The four of them crazily spurted out blood and were sent flying upside down. One strike. All four of them suffered serious injuries. Although their injuries were not too serious, the terrifying attack of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast still sent a chill down their spines, and fear appeared in their eyes. Venerable North Pure's hands slightly trembled as he shouted, "This golden-eyed aquaproof beast is very strong. Even if it can't be compared to a supremacy, it's at least a bit stronger than a late-stage perfected golden immortal. Even if the four of us join forces, we won't have any chance of winning against it." Venerable North Pure wiped the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth and asked aloud, "We can't get that crown if we can't fight it. entering a treasure mountain and returning empty-handed. I think senior brothers and sisters will regret it in the future, no? The black-robed woman said in a deep voice. Quickly think of a way. Even if we can't kill it, we must get the crown on its head. I suspect that the crown is no longer an immortal artifact. It should be a primordial chaos treasure. A primordial chaos treasure? The other three were shaken, and the greed in their eyes turned more intense. It must be noted that a 9th-grade immortal artifact was already a very terrifying immortal artifact. Even supremacy stage powerhouses might not necessarily have a 9th-grade immortal artifact. As for a primordial chaos treasure, it was a peerless treasure in the eyes of supremacies. If it's really a primordial chaos treasure and I can get it, my combat power will at least improve by several levels, and I'll be able to kill a late-stage perfected golden immortal. Venerable North Pure's body trembled and he shouted fiercely. If you don't have the will to go all out, how can you have the heart of a powerhouse? Everyone, let's throw caution to the wind. Kill. The other three were all battle-hardened powerhouses with wild natures flowing deep in their bones. In front of such a precious treasure, they even forgot Tang Xiu's existence to the highest heavens. The golden-eyed aquaproof beast was once an immortal beast raised by drunken immortal supreme. It had lived for tens of thousands of years, and after a long period of 80,000 years, its true age was already 120,000 years old. Therefore, its power was comparable to an early-stage supremacy stage powerhouse. Now upon seeing four weaklings coming here and provoking it, its ferocious nature was immediately aroused. It opened its mouth and spat out bubbles, and its sharp claws instantly swept toward the four people. Wherever the sharp claws passed, the lake water was forced to the sides, and the bubbles flowed in the gaps between the claws. Pop! When the sharp claws swept toward the innate natal weapons of the four people, the bubbles suddenly burst. The explosion was full of destructive aura and instantly increased by thousands of times. Heavens! It's even stronger than before. Run! The four people crazily spurted out blood, and their figures were like kites with broken strings, flying upside down for hundreds of meters. At this moment, all their defensive immortal weapons were shattered and destroyed. Suddenly, the black-robed woman's body trembled and a ribbon like water instantly wrapped around her body. The huge suction force didn't allow her to resist, and she was instantly pulled to the mouth of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. The 2 rows of crystal-like sharp teeth instantly bit the black-robed woman's body. Even her immortal soul couldn't escape, and was directly swallowed by the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. At the same time, Venerable Beixiang's body was also pulled to the front of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. His face was full of fear as he watched the black-robed woman being bitten and killed in an instant. Despair occupied his entire mind. He's dead. Venerable Beixiang painfully closed his eyes and roared, "Senior brothers, help me take care of my family." Boom! The golden-eyed aquaproof beast had just swallowed Venerable Beixiang. It didn't even have the time to bite this immortal to death when Venerable Beixiang's immortal soul self-detonated and howled in pain. Most of its sharp teeth were blown off, and the inside of its mouth was blown up. The huge impact caused it to suffer heavy injuries despite being powerful enough. Whoosh! A hazy figure silently appeared above the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. Without Venerable Beixiang's self-detonation, the golden-eyed aquaproof beast could have easily detected the other party. However, it was suffering from the pain of the explosion and fainted, so it couldn't detect anything around it. Puff! The divine sword pierced its head, and the crown on its head was instantly cut off. Then Tan Xiu appeared out of thin air and grabbed it. Afterward, Tan Xiu exerted all his strength to crazily circulate his primal chaos force, and dashed into the distance lightning fast. Junior sister Zhu Rong. Junior brother Beixiang. Venerable North Pure and the other perfected golden immortal looked pained at the same time. They roared and gritted their teeth as they crazily rushed toward the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. However, when the figure that appeared out of thin air appeared in their line of sight, the 2 of them crazily coughed up a mouthful of blood. Damn bastard! Give me back that primordial chaos treasure. The 2 of them didn't take advantage of the temporary fainting of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast to attack it. Instead, they tried to chase after Tan Xiu. What were they fighting so desperately for? It was all for that primordial chaos treasure. Ninth Heavenly Thunder Art. The moment Tanshio retreated, he cast the spell without hesitation. Countless thunderbolts struck down from the sky above the lake, causing the bottom of the lake to turn upside down. Roar! The golden-eyed aquaproof beast, who was attacked by the thunderbolts, suddenly woke up from its fainting state. Having suffered a heavy blow, its bloodshot eyes flickered with a crazy killing intent. Noticing the two enemies who had just passed by it, it immediately roared and chased after them. Venerable Northpure and the other perfected golden immortal were scared out of their wits at the same time. The thunderbolts made them somewhat helpless. Who would have thought that the fainted golden-eyed aquaproof beast would wake up at this time? Run! Run away! Venerable Northpure no longer cared about chasing Tanshio, nor did he care about the crown. His figure was like a cannonball, rushing upward while being bombarded by dozens of thunderbolts. Arg! The other perfected golden immortal couldn't avoid it, and was hit by the sharp claws of the golden-eyed aquaproof beast. He screamed and was swallowed by the beast. However, seeing that he couldn't survive, he also chose to detonate his immortal soul in an instant. The golden-eyed aquaproof beast had just been seriously injured. Although it barely survived, it couldn't withstand the second explosion of a perfected golden immortal's immortal soul. As its bestial soul collapsed, its head was blasted into pieces. Venerable Northpure was too close to the explosion of the perfected golden immortal. The aftermath of the explosion made him feel like he was struck by lightning. Tears and snot gushed out of his eyes and nose due to the pain, and blood spurted out of his mouth in big mouthfuls. By the time he escaped from the bottom of the lake, he was already on the verge of death. Buzz! A sword light that seemed to be able to tear through space slashed down at Venerable Northpure, catching him off guard. In almost an instant, Venerable Northpure was split into two halves, and even his immortal soul couldn't escape. So easy? Never once did Tanshio expect that a dignified perfected golden immortal would be so easily killed by him with a single slash. One must know that he didn't even have the time to use his Devour Divine ability and Fusion Divine ability. Chapter 1330. Tanshio's eyes flickered with excitement. He had already put the crown into his interspatial ring. He didn't have the time to check what grade of treasure the crown was, and rushed into the water again. Looking at the carcass of the golden crystal beast, he put its carcass into his interspatial ring, and rushed to the pearl immortal protective array at the bottom of the lake. In the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, he broke the array and put away the 1008 purple agates. Then, he grabbed the 7-colored pearl on top of a 10,000-year-old cold jade. The 7-colored dragon pearl? Tanshio's eyes lit up. The 7-colored dragon pearl, formed by the essence of the 7-colored divine dragon, was definitely a peerless treasure in the eyes of the Supremes. If one could absorb the 7-colored dragon pearl, any early-stage Supremes would be able to break through to the late-stage Supremes in a short time. They would have the chance to break through the deity's tribulation and become an immortal. At this very moment, the 7-colored dragon pearl that Tanshio had obtained was simply tailor-made for him. If he absorbed it, his cultivation speed would greatly increase, and it would be several times faster than usual. Absorb. Tanshio performed a series of hand seals to absorb the 7-colored dragon pearl. An indescribable feeling instantly enveloped his heart. Divine power. Rainbow phantasmagoria? Tanshio's expression gradually became strange. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would be able to awaken an innate ability just from absorbing a 7-colored dragon pearl. What was most unbelievable to him was that this rainbow phantasmagoria had greatly increased his mastery of illusions. He could even use the rainbow phantasmagoria to outline a world, and use this world to confuse his enemies, making them reveal their deepest secrets to him. Incredible. This is incredible. Tanshio could conclude that the rainbow phantasmagoria was definitely more terrifying than the Devour and Fusion divine powers. If he was fighting a strong enemy and used the rainbow phantasmagoria when the enemy was caught off guard, he would definitely be able to make the enemy lose focus. More importantly, he could also confuse the enemy and find out their weaknesses. Suddenly, Tanshio's expression changed, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in a narrow muddy ditch, and instantly set up a concealment array disc, and then restrained his aura. A moment later, two figures appeared at the place where Tan Xiao had just been. They used their divine senses to scan the surroundings, but they didn't detect any abnormalities in the surroundings. They frowned at the same time. It's obvious that a battle took place here, and the traces were not erased. If my guess is correct, they must have sensed our arrival, given up on the idea of fighting and left. Yes, and it's a battle between perfected golden immortals. It's a pity that we appeared too early. Otherwise, we could have waited until both sides were badly injured before appearing. We could have definitely killed them all and reaped the benefits. Let's go. After exchanging a few words, the two of them left. Time flew by. After a full 2 days, Tan Xiao quietly removed the concealment formation and left the bottom of the lake with the invisibility talisman. When he appeared on the shore and found that no one was hiding around, he hurried to the nearest palace. Many people entered the secret palace, but the space inside the secret palace was too big. At first, Tan Xiao encountered a lot of golden immortals and perfected golden immortals. But a few days later, he only met 2 golden immortals after traveling for millions of miles. Heaven Razor Palace. A towering palace in the secret palace was shrouded by an array, and only a long bridge could lead to the palace. However, after a few days, the dozens of golden immortals and perfected golden immortals who discovered the palace failed to cross the long bridge. They were either killed by the restrictions and traps on the bridge, or they were forced to retreat after sustaining heavy injuries. Thousands of miles away from the palace, Sablefiend Scorpio trembled all over and spurted out a mouthful of dark green blood. The black robe on her body was already in tatters, and the horrifying wound on her body was bleeding profusely. His grayish-white bones could be seen clearly from the wounds on his body. Hand over the obsidian pot. Maybe we can keep your remnant soul and let you reincarnate as a scorpion. But if you continue to resist, don't blame us for destroying your soul and making you unable to reincarnate forever, said a handsome man in a golden battle robe with a strange smile. Next to him were 2 sturdy iron tower-like men who looked almost identical. They were about 4 meters tall and had dark skin that exuded a glossy luster. They also had an extra eye on their glabella. They were members of the 3-eyed Iron True clan, which was very rare in the immortal world. Sablefiend Scorpio felt a bit desperate. She was a late-stage perfected golden immortal, and it was reasonable to say that there was almost no one in this secret palace who could kill her. But the 3 opponents were all late-stage perfected golden immortals. Most importantly, White Spark True Monarch had a 9th grade skyscraping all. White Spark True Monarch, you have to think it through. Even if the 3 of you join forces to kill me, I can at least drag one of you to die with me. The other 2 won't feel any better. Besides, there are at least dozens of powerhouses eyeing us covetously in the vicinity. We'll only end up benefiting others in the end, said Sablefiend Scorpio coldly. Do you think this monarch is scared? White Spark True Monarch sneered. You want to drag us down with you? You want us to pay a painful price. You're already at the end of your strength, and the 3 of us don't even need to go all out to kill you. Cut the crap and hand over the obsidian pot, else you'll really have your soul scattered. Sablefiend Scorpio took a deep breath, looked around and shouted. Who dares to stand up now? Whose treasure is this obsidian pot? White Spark True Monarch snorted, whereas the 2 3-eyed Iron True clan experts also looked disdainful. At this moment, who would dare to stand up against the 3 late-stage perfected golden immortals? Sure enough, none of the dozens of perfected golden immortals hiding in the surroundings came forward. It wasn't that they didn't want the obsidian pot, but they didn't have the confidence to kill White Spark True Monarch's trio if they helped Sablefiend Scorpio. Most importantly, the enemies were not limited to White Spark True Monarch's trio. There were many faintly discernible auras in the surroundings. When she and White Spark True Monarch were mutually wounded, they would surely kill them and snatch the treasure. Deep unwillingness emerged in Sablefiend Scorpio's heart. She looked forward to her master Tan Xiao's arrival, but she was also well aware that even if her master Tan Xiao arrived, he wouldn't be able to save her. Even if her master Tan Xiao could kill a perfected golden immortal with a sneak attack, It was impossible for him to fight against 3 late-stage perfected golden immortals. Even with his help, it was very likely that one more person would die in the end. Or maybe, facing such a situation, even if he's already here, the chances of him coming out to help me are slim, no? After all, it's a dead end. Sable-Fiend Scorpio took a deep breath and unleashed a blood-red saber from her body. Her eyes were filled with madness. It was a very high-grade Magus artifact that was comparable to an 8th-grade Immortal artifact. She hadn't unleashed it before because she didn't want others to know that she had a high-grade Magus artifact to prevent others from coveting her treasure and killing her. But now, she couldn't care less anymore. "Come on. Let's see which one of you will be buried with me," shouted Sable-Fiend Scorpio. A Magus artifact? When Sable-Fiend Scorpio unleashed the Magus artifact, be it Whitespark True Monarch, his 2 subordinates, or the dozens of powerhouses nearby, all of them could feel the shaman power emanating from the Magus artifact. Some knowledgeable people even recognized the Magus artifact. It was once a divine weapon of the Diablo Precantator clan, a famous race in the immortal world. Interesting. A cold figure shot from a distance. He exuded a surging aura and said in a deep voice, "Sable-Fiend Scorpio has disappeared for hundreds of years. I didn't expect to see you here. Furthermore, you even have a Magus artifact once used by the Diablo Precantator War General." "Venerable Netherworld, do you also want to fight me?" retorted Sable-Fiend Scorpio with a murderous aura. "You're very strong, so I'm naturally not your match." Venerable Netherworld shook his head and smilingly said, "Of course those 3 are also powerhouses and I'm not their match either. But I'm curious. You were still a mid-level perfected golden immortal several hundred years ago. So how did you break through to the late level so quickly? If you can answer my question, it's not impossible for me to fight alongside you." Sable-Fiend Scorpio's expression shifted, and she shot a deep look at Venerable Netherworld. She knew that the Venerable was right. Let alone several hundred years ago. She was just a mid-level perfected golden immortal a few days ago. But after coming to the secret palace, her luck could be said to be heaven-defying, and she was directly teleported to a swamp by the teleportation array there. Most importantly, there was a heavenly god fruit tree growing in the swamp, and there happened to be 2 ripe heavenly god fruits on the tree. After taking 1 heavenly god fruit, her cultivation rapidly increased, and she smoothly broke through to the late-level perfected golden immortal in just a few days. Naturally, it's a fortuitous encounter. Venerable Netherworld's eyes narrowed. Upon hearing Sable-Fiend Scorpio's words, a wry smile appeared on his face and he sighed. "I originally wanted to wait for both of you to suffer, and then snatch the obsidian pot. But I didn't expect you to reveal the Diablo Precantator clan's weapon. It seems I can only act in advance. Sable-Fiend Scorpio, you can see the current situation clearly. You'll have almost 0 chance of winning if you fight them alone. Therefore, we can only fight side by side to have a chance of winning." "Why are you helping me?" asked Sable-Fiend Scorpio with a frown. "Because I also have a witchcraft artifact," said Venerable Netherworld lightly. "I don't know if the fortuitous encounter you mentioned is just my guess. But ever since the Diablo Precantator clan disappeared in the immortal world, only a few witchcraft artifacts of their clan have been passed down. Almost everyone who has a witchcraft artifact has obtained their inheritance." Chapter 1331. Sable-Fiend Scorpio instantly understood Venerable Netherworld's meaning. He probably misunderstood that she had obtained the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan, so the 2 of them could be considered to have some fate with the same lineage. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were half from the same sect. Whitespark True Monarch, who was standing a kilometer away, immediately looked angry upon hearing Venerable Netherworld's words and roared loudly. "Are you sure you want to intervene in our matter, Venerable Netherworld? I'll tell you this. I'll definitely kill you here today if you don't retreat quickly. Countless people have threatened me, but none of them were able to realize their big words," said Venerable Netherworld coldly. "I've heard that Whitespark True Monarch is very powerful, so I'd like to exchange pointers with you today. Is it you who's more powerful, or is it me who can jump a level and beat you?" "Kill." White Spark, true monarch, could see that venerable Netherworld really wanted to poke his nose into other people's business today. So he understood that wasting his breath would only give Sablefiend Scorpio more time to recuperate. His figure flickered lightning fast, and instantly dashed toward the duo. He unleashed his innate natal immortal sword and fiercely attacked the duo. The two three-eyed Iron True Clan twins cooperated with each other to form a duo-killing array. As they brandished their spears, layers of spear shadows turned into meteors that instantly passed through White Spark True Monarch's body and attacked Sablefiend Scorpio and Venerable Netherworld. Skynet. A big golden net instantly blocked in front of Venerable Netherworld and Sablefiend Scorpio. As the duo violently retreated, layers of overlapping blade shadows covered the space in front of them. Nearly at the moment when the blade shadows slashed toward White Spark True Monarch, the big net began to change in various forms. It was the first time they cooperated. Venerable Netherworld and Sablefiend Scorpio cooperated very well with each other. Their experience in fighting and killing, coupled with the fact that one of them defended and the other attacked, they were able to completely resolve the attacks of the three perfected golden immortals. We're not their match. Let's find a way to escape. Venerable Netherworld sent a voice transmission to Sablefiend Scorpio. Indeed, replied Sablefiend Scorpio. If I'm not injured, I'll have a chance to win as long as you can hold one of them. But I'm heavily injured and can't unleash 80% of my strength, so it's too difficult to defeat them. This is the secret palace, and I'm not familiar with the surroundings, so I can't make an escape plan. Venerable Netherworld's mind was racing. He had sent a message to Nine Nether Swordmeister a few days ago, and learned that it would take him at least half a month to meet up with him. Therefore, he could only think of a way to resolve the crisis before him. Let's put on a bluff first and risk it all. Venerable Netherworld pondered for a while, and finally transmitted his voice. How? Asked Sablefiend Scorpio. I'll put away the Skynet later, and then we'll unleash our strongest attacks at the same time, said Venerable Netherworld. Even if we can't severely injure them, we can still catch them off guard, and make them immediately defend and retreat. Let's take advantage of this opportunity to run towards the back. Now that the secret palace is full of dangers, even if they are powerful, they will need to think carefully before they want to hunt us down. I'm betting that they'll chase us for at most 1,000,000 miles before giving up. All right. Sablefiend Scorpio immediately replied. In an instant, she and Venerable Netherworld went all out and unleashed their strongest killer moves. As their innate immortal weapons turned into a sea of attacks, White Spark True Monarch's trio's complexion slightly changed. Buzz! At this moment, the trio suddenly felt their vision blur, causing their eyes to widen as though they saw the most incredible thing in the world. That was the person they missed the most and the most beautiful scene. Puff! 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 In just a flash, White Spark True Monarch broke free from the illusion. When he realized that the terrifying attacks were already in front of him, it was too difficult for him to dodge them. Therefore, an immortal weapon appeared in his hand out of thin air, and he instantly raised his arm. Aoarg! The immortal weapon on his arm was directly cut off along with his arm. The two three-eyed Iron True Clan's twin brothers, on the other hand, were not as strong as White Spark True Monarch in terms of willpower. They didn't notice the attacks until they were already in front of them, and were directly slain by their innate immortal weapons. God damn it! White Spark True Monarch was furious. He endured the intense pain and instantly flew backward. He put away the two three-eyed Iron True Clan's immortal souls, and then turned around to flee into the distance. What's going on? Sablefiend Scorpio and Venerable Netherworld were caught unprepared by the sudden change. They looked at each other in dismay, watching White Spark True Monarchs fleeing back and the two three-eyed Iron True Clan's corpses. They were shocked, speechless for a while. What? Since when did my attacks become so powerful? Since when was it possible to directly kill a late-stage perfected golden immortal? The tens of golden immortal realm experts in the surroundings were secretly paying attention to the battle. However, such a sudden change in events was something they'd never imagined even in their dreams. For a moment, they didn't know how to accept it. Whoosh! Tanxio's figure flashed and appeared in front of them in just a few breaths. With a calm expression on his handsome face, He found the 2 interspatial rings from the corpses of the 3-eyed Iron True clan's experts, and put them into his own ring. Then he cupped his fists and smilingly said, "We meet again, Venerable Netherworld." Venerable Netherworld looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and nodded. "I really didn't expect to meet Great Tang, Heavenly Emperor here." "It's fate that brought us here to meet," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "I have to thank Venerable Netherworld for drawing your sword to help." "Drawing your sword to help?" Venerable Netherworld stared blankly for a moment. "Master." Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Sablefiend Scorpio instantly realized that White Spark True Monarch's group of 3 was definitely related to her master, the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. However, such a guess was just a guess, and the outcome still scared her. After all, in her eyes, Tan Xiu was probably inferior to a perfected Golden Immortal. He had once killed an early-stage perfected Golden Immortal, but it was only because of a sneak attack that he won. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and glanced at her covered face. Then he said, "Fortunately, I arrived in time, else it wouldn't have been so easy for you to get out of danger." "Master?" Venerable Netherworld looked incredulous. His eyes were as big as a bell as he kept looking at Tan Xiu and Sablefiend Scorpio. Never once did he expect that a dignified perfected Golden Immortal like Sablefiend Scorpio would call this weak Great Tang Heavenly Emperor as master. What kind of situation was this? In the surroundings, the dozens of perfected Golden Immortals hiding in the dark also looked incredulous. They didn't sense Tan Xiu's powerful aura, and they could even faintly perceive that this mysterious young man called Master by Sablefiend Scorpio should have just gone through the immortal tribulation not long ago, right? Even if he cultivated some kind of divine ability or secret technique, he could only be comparable to an Earth Immortal at most. So how could he become the master of a perfected Golden Immortal like Sablefiend Scorpio? What's his origin? Even a dignified perfected Golden Immortal like Sablefiend Scorpio submitted to him? You know, a supremacy stage powerhouse tried to subdue Sablefiend Scorpio thousands of years ago, but he failed. When did such a guy appear in the immortal world? What kind of ability does he have to make Sablefiend Scorpio call him master? Is he a disciple of some great force? But even if he is, he's not qualified to make Sablefiend Scorpio submit if he's too weak, no? What's going on here? There's definitely something fishy going on. I don't think this mysterious young man is simple. Could it be that the reason why Sablefiend Scorpio and Venerable Netherworld could easily defeat White Spark True Monarch's group of 3 is related to this mysterious young man? Who exactly is he? Tan Xiu didn't hear the private discussions of the dozens of perfected Golden Immortals around him, let alone knowing what they were thinking. Looking at Venerable Netherworld's dull face, Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "Venerable Netherworld, this isn't a good place to reminisce about the past. Why don't we leave this place first and then have a few drinks?" Venerable Netherworld was on guard against Tan Xiu. After hesitating for a while, he slowly nodded and said, "That's exactly what I'm thinking. Please." "Please." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and turned to fly away with Sablefiend Scorpio. The dozens of perfected Golden Immortals in the surroundings didn't stop the trio's departure. Although they wanted to snatch the treasures in Sablefiend Scorpio's hands, 2 of White Spark True Monarch's group of 3 had died, and 1 had fled. They didn't have the ability to stop Sablefiend Scorpio, Venerable Netherworld, and the mysterious young man. 1,000,000 kilometers away. When Tan Xiu took Sablefiend Scorpio and Venerable Netherworld, and landed in a mountain canyon, Tan Xiu used his spiritual sense to observe the surroundings. After finding that there was no one else within hundreds of kilometers, he quickly arranged a soundproof array and smilingly said, "Please, Venerable Netherworld." Venerable Netherworld shot a deep look at Tan Xiu, and then glanced at Sablefiend Scorpio, who was standing respectfully beside Tan Xiu, from the corner of his eyes. Then he sat cross-legged on a large blue stone. Tan Xiu took out some immortal wine and poured 2 cups. He handed 1 cup to Venerable Netherworld, and then raised his cup and smilingly said, "Thank you for your help, Venerable Netherworld. Otherwise, this subordinate of mine would have died in the Yellow Springs today." Venerable Netherworld didn't rush to drink the wine in his cup, and instead stared at Tan Xiu and asked, "I need you to answer a question for me. If you want to ask why those 3 perfected golden immortals suddenly forgot to resist, then save your golden mouth, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. What I can tell you is that I did it, but how I did it is my secret. I won't ask about it since it's your secret. Venerable Netherworld forced a wry smile. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, I and Sable-Fiend Scorpio may have some relationship, so I wonder if she can answer a question of mine. That top-notch shaman artifact was given to me by someone, said Sable-Fiend Scorpio. If you want to ask me if I got the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan, then I can tell you that I didn't get it. Starting from today, I'll resume the triple eruption, seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes ***. Chapter 1332. Venerable Netherworld looked a bit disappointed after hearing Sable-Fiend Scorpio's words. He shook his head and forced a wry smile. It seems I was wrong. You may have misunderstood me as the successor disciple of the Diablo Precantator clan, but I still want to thank you, said Sable-Fiend Scorpio. If it wasn't for you, Venerable Netherworld, I'm afraid my chances of surviving would have been very small. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. If you need my help in the future, I'll do my best to help you as long as Master allows it. Venerable Netherworld slightly nodded and sighed. I didn't expect to get a favor from a late-stage perfected golden immortal, due to a misjudgment. It's worth it. But I'm curious about how you... Sable-Fiend Scorpio glanced at Tan Xiao and lowered her head in silence. She didn't answer his question. Venerable Netherworld's curiosity is much heavier than I thought, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. All right, let me answer this question for you. Sable-Fiend Scorpio was once trapped in the convict arena, and I bought her at a high price. Hence she followed me and worked for me. The convict arena? With a strange expression, Venerable Netherworld asked, was Sable-Fiend Scorpio among the people you sent to kill 9 Nether Swordmeister's friend? No, I didn't. Tan Xiao shook his head. You didn't? Venerable Netherworld stared blankly and immediately asked in surprise. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, how many perfected golden immortals did you buy from the convict arena? Tan Xiao deliberately raised his hand and counted his fingers. Then he smilingly said, not many actually. About a dozen. What's wrong? Venerable Netherworld wants me to give you a few? No. Venerable Netherworld gulped down a mouthful of saliva and looked incredulous. Never once did he expect that Tan Xiao would have the courage and financial resources to buy so many perfected golden immortals from the convict arena. Given the number of powerhouses under his control, perhaps even a second-rate sect in the immortal world wouldn't be much stronger than him, right? The Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's wealth is comparable to a nation's. It's really enviable. Having said that, he directly drank the wine in his cup, got up and said, I came to this secret palace to get some treasures. Sable-Fiend Scorpio is safe and sound, so I'll take my leave. Tan Xiao nodded with a smile and watched Venerable Netherworld leave. Then he slowly turned to Sable-Fiend Scorpio and asked, what's the origin of those 3 who besieged you before? They're from the Cloud Cauldron sect, said Sable-Fiend Scorpio. Cloud Tripod sect? Tan Xiao said in surprise. The Cloud Cauldron sect is in the Heavenly Cloud Immortal Domain, which is at least 100 immortal domains away from here. It's a desolate place in the immortal world. I didn't expect to meet 3 perfected golden immortals from the Cloud Cauldron sect here. As far as I know, the Cloud Cauldron sect had a total of 4 perfected golden immortals hundreds of years ago, said Sable-Fiend Scorpio. Aside from Whitespark True Monarch and the 2 three-eyed Iron Clan powerhouses, there's only Sect Master Whitewing True Monarch left. We may have to guard against the retaliation of those disciples from the major sects if we encountered them. Tan Xiao nodded. But this Cloud Cauldron sect isn't worth worrying about. Anyway, how did you get into a conflict with those 3 people from the Cloud Cauldron sect? Sable-Fiend Scorpio took out the obsidian pot and handed it to Tan Xiao. Master, this is a treasure I got from a dangerous place millions of miles away. When I was collecting this obsidian pot, those 3 people from the Cloud Cauldron sect happened to find me, and then chased me to the palace. The obsidian pot? A surprised look appeared on Tan Xiao's face. After receiving it, he quietly observed it for a while and then nodded. This obsidian pot is a 9th-grade immortal artifact that Supreme Obsidian traveled across most of the immortal world tens of thousands of years ago. He collected a lot of precious materials and spent more than 500 years to refine it. However, its only effect is to suppress immortal souls. Having said that, a scroll appeared in Tanshio's hand out of thin air. He threw it to Sablefiend Scorpio and said, "You may be my subordinate, but I won't take what you got for free. This is the Tai-Bai Myriad Beast Scripture, which is suitable for cultivators of exotic beasts like you." The Tai-Bai Myriad Beast Scripture? Sablefiend Scorpio looked ecstatic and quickly opened the Tai-Bai Myriad Beast Scripture. Simple and unadorned characters flowed into her eyes like flowing water. In just a quarter of an hour, she gratefully knelt in front of Tanshio and said, "Thank you for the reward, Master. With this Tai-Bai Myriad Beast Scripture, I'll have some assurance to break through to the supremacy stage in the future. If you can break through to the supremacy stage soon, you'll be a great help to me in the future." Tanshio faintly smiled. "Cultivate well. I'll provide you with the resources you need. If you perform well, I can also teach you various divine abilities and secret arts in the future." "Understood. This subordinate will do her best to serve you, Master," said Sablefiend Scorpio excitedly. In the past, she only thought that Tanshio was a mysterious rich man. The reason why she was loyal to him was that her life was in his hands. She almost had no respect for him at all. But now, she found that her master was even more mysterious and terrifying. Also, previously, when he and Venerable Netherworld worked together to kill the enemies, his master must have used some kind of secret technique that allowed the two of them to easily kill the two enemies. Even Whitespark True Monarch was heavily injured and had to flee in panic. Sablefiend Scorpio realized that her master, whom she once despised, not only had huge wealth, but his strength was also very shocking. The reason why he had been acting weak was probably because he was hiding his strength. Further, he should have many other things, any of which could cause a big sensation if he were to take them out. It must be noted that the Tai-Bai Myriad Beast Scripture was an inherited cultivation technique of the Tai-Bai sect in the Tai-Bai Immortal domain. She couldn't figure out why this master in front of her would have the top cultivation technique of the Tai-Bai sect. However, she was sure that this master of hers was even more mysterious and powerful than she had imagined. "Let's take all the treasures in the palace first since we've gathered together." Tanshio waved his hand and said, "Let's take away all the treasures in the palace first. We'll search for star tears after we're done with this place." "I may have been chased to that palace, Master," said Sablefiend Scorpio respectfully. "But I also found out some things. Many people have found that palace in the past few days, but no one has been able to enter it smoothly. Many golden immortals and perfected golden immortals were either killed by the restrictions and traps on the bridge leading to the palace, or were forced to retreat after suffering heavy injuries. I think that for the sake of safety, we should wait until someone breaks the restrictions and mechanisms of that palace. It won't be too late for us to enter then. How about we make a bet?" Tanshio lightly smiled. Sablefiend Scorpio stared blankly for a moment, and then hurriedly said, "This subordinate dares not." "Don't worry. I won't blame you." Tanshio chuckled. "I can tell you that it's absolutely as easy as entering my own back garden, if I want to enter that palace. Do you believe me?" Sablefiend Scorpio shot a strange look at Tanshio and slowly shook her head. "I don't believe you. Since you don't believe me, then let's make a bet," said Tanshio. "Let's bet 1 immortal crystal." Sablefiend Scorpio thought for a while and nodded. "If it's really like what Master said, that you can enter that palace as if entering your own back garden, then I'll naturally concede defeat when the time comes. All right, let's go." With a smile on his face, Tanshio removed the soundproof array and flew toward the palace with Sablefiend Scorpio. More than 1,000 kilometers away from the palace, Tanshio found some immortals hiding in the dark. However, he didn't alarm them and chose to take a detour to approach the palace. 200 kilometers. When Tanshio and Sablefiend Scorpio were only 200 kilometers away from the palace, Tanshio stopped and slightly furrowed his brows. The closer he got to the palace, the denser the immortals hiding in the dark were. Even if he wanted to take a detour, he couldn't. It seems I can only change my appearance. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. His facial muscles changed and he quickly changed into another appearance. He then saw that Sablefiend Scorpio also changed her appearance. Therefore, Tan Xiu took her and swaggered toward the front of the palace. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he and Sablefiend Scorpio stepped on the tens of thousands of meters long bridge. Look at where I'm going to land and follow me closely. Remember, don't go the wrong way, else you'll be attacked by the restrictions and traps here, said Tan Xiu with a voice transmission. Understood. Sablefiend Scorpio's eyes revealed a strange look, but she didn't question him. She wanted to see if this mysterious master of hers really had the ability to enter, or was he just spouting nonsense? They kept moving forward. The duo encountered more than a dozen immortals who were cautiously walking on the long bridge, as though they were treading on thin ice. When the duo was halfway there, they saw a golden immortal stage powerhouse being blasted away by a lightning restriction and heavily smashing into both sides of the bridge. Almost in an instant, only a mournful scream was heard as the man was obliterated by a large number of restrictions on both sides. Huh. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's eyes turned cold because he found a familiar face 100 meters in front of him. He deeply remembered that this golden immortal stage powerhouse was in the residence of the Inner Pill sect back in the Boundless City. He was a disciple of the Inner Pill sect. At this time, although the golden immortal stage powerhouse noticed that someone was coming behind him, he didn't want to pay attention to it at all. He was more concerned about the restrictions and traps in the surroundings. Along the way, he had calculated every step with great precision, constantly comprehending the profundities of the restrictions on the bridge, and searching for the locations of those traps. 7 days. I'll be able to cross this bridge and enter the palace in 7 days at most. I believe there must be a lot of treasures in the palace. Maybe the inheritance left by Drunken Immortal Supreme is in this palace. The Golden Immortal of the Inner Pill sect thought happily after breaking another restriction. You're tuning in to the Lime's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.